greetings to the world. So we are doing a hangout. We talked about doing a hangout about Against the Odds, which is like the men's issue group that we're all members of. I would say that we haven't really done much yet, but people have just been throwing around ideas, and we've got some like...
There are a lot of videos, sorry, just to interrupt, there are a lot of videos in some stage of development.
Yeah.
The abuse video I've been involved with, the script is looking solid. I added my contribution to the actual audio recording. I think it's almost heading into the editing phase now.
Oh, cool.
So it's come out, I think.
Wait, so what's
Anyway,
that video
sorry,
about?
go on.
That's for the Against the Odds channel, right?
Yeah, that's our main official video. It's getting ticked off sort of by the group, and people seem to like the script a bit. A couple adjustments, but now it's on track.
It was an awesome script.
Yeah, no, Nikita and Oscar, they did a great job. I helped them out a little bit, but they did the bulk of the work.
Oh, cool.
And
cool. Yeah, really looking forward to that one. Looks awesome.
I mean, for people who don't know, like when we formed this group, you know, based on like Chris Yossity's questions from the reasonable questions for NDSAW's thing or whatever, and then some people took it up and made this group. We've got a few subsections, and we've got like depression and suicide is one of the ones that we're looking at. What are the other online? No, wait, it's something else. What are the groups again?
There was veterans issues that Chris Yossity was doing, I believe.
Veterans issues. I was in that one, and I've got to say I've really dropped the ball with that one, just because I don't really. I've just been so busy, and I don't really know what I can offer to it other than support at this point. But hopefully I can get back into it soon. But it looks like some of the other groups are more further along in what they're up to. So
it's funny.
That's
like
cool.
Chrissy said to me, like, "Oh, Tim, do you want to like take charge of the veterans issues?" And I was like, "Me? I've never." Like, I have absolutely no experience with anything.
That's the
to
thing
do
with me. Like,
how could I possibly run that group?
It's something that I really care about. That's why I joined that particular group. But like, I have no experience or knowledge about it really. Like, I would be totally happy to research into it to help create something. But
I just said put me on
sure
depression
there are
and
people
suicide. That's
that
my
are
thing.
Coming from a better place than me at this point.
Yeah, I think it's still finding its feet, but and there's been little disruptions here and there, and people coming along and hanging up and not being very helpful. And,
oh, Tim, I just noticed that you just passed 2,000 subs. Congrats!
Thank you.
Oh wow, 2006. It's almost a recent year. I always like it when a number is like an actual year.
Things were so simple then. Were they? No.
Oh wow.
That was the Bush era. That was pretty shitty.
Bush era, that's right.
A simpler time we can look back on with fond nostalgia.
A simpler time. Let's not go there yet. We can at least avoid it a little while longer. Okay, so I guess where we could start this off a little bit is at a stream with Bane. And the idea of it... I
just started listening to that day before yesterday. No, yesterday, yeah. And I want to finish it at some point. But yeah, I got caught into election coverage, so I had to let it go. But I want to finish it. It seemed like it was going really well at the point that I got to.
Yeah. It went on a bit too long, and a couple of times I kind of lost track of what I was saying, but that's partly because I was a bit sleep deprived. But I think mostly it was pretty good. It was pretty good. And one thing we ended up doing, and maybe this is something that's what I raised recently in the group, is with the Motivators channel, and probably a lot of the people who are likely to watch and this stream out,
probably a lot of
they
hate
come
watches.
at it more from the MRA side with MRM, and they come maybe more from the feminist side. Is that right?
Well, I mean, I've got like a sizable bunch of hate watchers, probably, or people who were like, I heard that you're like the good SJW and you're the one that we can tolerate. And then they probably watch some of my shit and get turned off when I say, holy shit, that thing's racist. I'm like, no, oh God, he's one of them too. He's a real SJW.
Tim is known as everyone's favorite SJW.
Until I'm not. I always put people off at some point, and then they suddenly decide I'm shit. And I'm like, oh, I didn't change. It's just you learnt more about me, and now you don't like me. It's like, that sucks.
Oh, well.
But the rest of my comments, a lot of them are, I guess, in the social justice.
I kind of enjoy having those moments with people sometimes. It's like, oh, you thought I agreed with you on that?
Yeah,
no.
like, oh, Tim seems great. And then they watch my videos. Oh my god, this guy is terrible. Why am I following him?
Hi.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, hello.
Sorry I'm late. I got a phone call, and I'm probably not going to be able to be in this hangout for that long, but I'll try and, I'll be around till at least 8 our time, New Zealand time. Yeah.
We were just talking about my viewers and how they're all raging regressives or something. But I don't know. Like,
wrong with having a good cohort of hate watchers.
Oh, wow.
I love my subs, though. You know, I mean,
Let the haters be your motivators.
They often back me up, you know, if I'm insecure about something.
Oh, we got Bane in the chat. Hi, Bane.
I was about to say, we've got Bane.
Hi,
hey, Bane.
Love you too.
I was going to say, you said that the hangout with Bane went too long, but I think most of his hangouts are pretty long. No offense to but they go on for a while. Most of them are like Lord of the Rings extended edition.
But it was good. I enjoyed it a lot, and I felt like a lot of people said a lot of useful things, and perhaps the perspective that we were kind of arriving at, and Bane, correct me if I'm wrong, was a sort of, well, we don't necessarily need to view it through a single gender's lens. There are a lot of more or less gendered issues, but we can tackle them from a sort of middle ground of just addressing both sides of the equation as well as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from like human trafficking, which is a bit different. I mean, you traffic men more for labor, you traffic women for sexual reasons, and that is pretty dark and disturbing, but again, we can look at both sides. And it seems apparent to me, as far as I can say, that might be the best way forward for everyone, for MRAs and feminists.
Yeah, I think a big part of the problem has been that there have been some people, you know, not all, on both sides, that want to kind of cast one gender as a victim, you know, as the victimized one. And in certain cases that might be true, but overall,
well,
both have issues, and we should be just talking about them for what they are, and not trying to demonize the other gender's issues.
Well, like, also earlier, again, oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, me and Garrett earlier were actually talking about, like, how each side has, like, their scrappers, and there's people who love getting involved in battles. And sometimes that makes it, like, very difficult for people to actually have a conversation about anything, because it's always about, like, winning something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the actual issues get a bit obscured.
It's paradoxical, because on the one hand, that it is just about winning battles for people like that, but on the other hand, they don't really care about the end game of the whole gender conflict. Those people, they just make it worse, and they don't really seem to care about that.
But how do you know they don't care? Seems kind of mind-ready.
I'm not saying they don't.
Certain hypocrisies.
I'm not saying they don't care in their intent and how they view the world. I'm saying the end result is they don't do anything towards actually making anything better. So
I sort of see what you're getting at, Garrett. I think there's something to the whole, like, just pure battle for battle's sake and that kind of thing. I think that's a real phenomenon. But we've got to try and give each other at least... There's a tendency in this whole gender conflict, SJW conflict, whatever you want to call it, there's a tendency, and it comes from both sides, to never give your opposition the benefit of the doubt. To always look at whatever they say as being the stupidest possible version of it. Or the most, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like, you know, in what way is this thing I'm about to watch wrong? Because it's by people who I don't agree with.
Yeah, going into it with that attitude, absolutely.
Yeah, well, I try not to do that. But, you know, with certain YouTubers, it's bad. You know?
But it's like interesting with someone like Bane, and also with like Shoonhead, who me and Garrett talked to and stuff. It's kind of like, in their videos, like I think in Bane's videos, he's very like aggressive and he's like really going for it and stuff. But when you actually talk to him in a hangout, like I remember like making points to him and him just being like, "Oh, that's a good point. It's interesting." And I'm just like, when's he gonna hammer me? When's he gonna like destroy me? But it's like, no, he like listens to what you say. And I'm like, that's weird. Why the fuck are you listening to me? You're not supposed to. You're supposed to
I said
fight.
exactly that during our stream. I was like, yeah, when we make the videos against each other, we attack. But when we actually just sit down and talk, we talk. And it can actually be quite productive and quite conciliatory.
Not all.
When I do my response videos, I don't attack people, but yeah, most people do. Yeah.
I did some attacks. I attacked the fucking AIU, and I called him bold.
Aggressive. I've never found him to be one of those like aggressive people, but definitely, when people do a response video or something, they tend to be trying to be entertaining as well. And I'm not saying in any way that it's bad to want to be entertaining, but it does sometimes bring out a less nuanced point of view or a more attacking way of going about it. And it's good and important to get beyond that as well and have a conversation and see like, oh, okay, maybe this person isn't as crazy as I might think they are. Right. Maybe they have some good points in there.
Yeah, I don't think
you're right. There's that. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I don't think you can accuse my content of trying to be entertaining.
Really?
I have to look at some of it, Garrett. I'm afraid I haven't.
It's not really. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you're right. And, that's Shoonhead's basic get out of jail free card is it's just entertainment, which, on one level is true. It is just entertainment, but then, nothing is just entertainment. So I don't know.
Well, that's a nice little social theory that I kind of understand and kind of see that some people disagree with that, and I think it's fair enough. The whole everything is political kind of view. I don't know if that's necessarily what you think, but
no, I wasn't saying that. Although I would, everything is political is a slogan that doesn't apply to everywhere. That you could say that in China, but not necessarily here. I don't know if that applies. But no, I was more meaning that I wasn't saying everything is political as such. I was just meaning that there's always more factors involved than just one, and that you need to look at like. That Shoonhead is making videos along the same basic ideological lines, i.e. what she thinks, apparently, what her views are. And so, you can at least say, well, you're not making videos counter to your views that are entertaining. So, it's not just about entertainment. Because if it was about entertainment, the focus would be broader, I guess. You know what I mean?
It can be kind of disarming when you sit down with someone and you've seen them on their videos, and then you find out that you can actually talk to them, because then you're like, what the hell's going on? Like, because on your on that people's videos, they seem like so self-assured about what they're saying, and then you talk to them in person, and you're like, this person's like actually listening or actually talking. This doesn't make sense.
And it's also the whole preparation thing. When they're into something and they prepare for it and they do all the research and they get into a mindset and then they release the video and it will look a certain way. But when you just, again, as you're saying, when it's just conversation, so different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really like when
I just want to celebrate the fact that we've got 2 dislikes already. Fantastic.
Yeah, I was just going to point that out as well.
My bad.
But yeah, I really like when people make jokes and that kind of thing, because I think it can be really effective at getting people to watch your message and getting your viewpoint out there. But I think there's a way that you can do it without being, I don't know, overly polarizing, or without being too different from your true self.
People have been giving me shit about my snark recently, because I can get really snarky and sarcastic. And I've just been thinking about this, and I basically feel that if I'm having a conversation with someone and I get frustrated because I feel like the other person's not listening and I feel like I'm just yelling into a void, then I just start saying just whatever just to fuck with it, because I'm just like bored. I'm like, this is boring. I'm just going to fuck with things. I'm going to, take the piss out of things. I'm going to be snarky and I'm going to be sarcastic. And I always try to have the dialogue, but then I get frustrated and I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to be so goddamn sarcastic to this person. And
Yeah,
then eventually, yeah.
When the dialogue falls apart, Tim, you go into full fuck this person mode, and I just disengage with them. Yeah, and I think both sides have their pros and cons. Just cutting off all contact as soon as you realize that the other party is not going to be conducive to having a rational conversation.
Yeah, like when I got sick of talking to Bering, I made that parody video where I just said, fuck everyone associated with Bering and all his followers, and they can all jump off a bridge, and I'm going to dox you and shit. And it was just all like total bullshit. I was like, I'm just fucking bored of like talking at a wall. So I'm just going to make a ridiculous video. You know?
Yeah.
I'm not terribly a fan of Bering. Look, if you could remove a lot of the garbage, you would almost have something worth watching, but too much, it is just the comedy and the entertainment, and it is just sort of a nonchalant,
he's a scrapper,
hostility.
Really. He's just kind of like, he's like, you know, they say soldiers of the gynocracy or whatever. He's just he's a soldier of the anti-feminocracy, really. He's just dutifully destroying and attacking feminists, and that's just what he does. It's like a machine. Just rolls on every single day, you know?
Yeah.
I guess like it's,
and I have to say I've also found Sargon has, like, probably not your favorite guy, but to me, he at least used to be more worth listening to. Now I'm starting to waver on whether that's even true anymore. Because
that hasn't been true for a while now.
A lot of crap.
Yeah, I didn't watch him.
Our group is getting partisan. It's all lies.
But yeah, he's
Echo chamber.
Absolutely insane. I listen to his stuff now, and I'm just cringing the entire time.
But a lot of that's to do with
Trump. He feels like he's sort of ranting. I don't want to bash too many like anti-SJW types. Like to mention a good thing, right? That I think we can all sort of agree with. There was the good video Jeff Holiday made recently against Stefan Molyneux, sort of debunking race realism, and it was pretty solid.
Yeah, the race realism video. Yeah.
Oh, check it out. That's cool.
Yeah, he came on one of my comment sections and mocked me recently, so that guy can basically go get fucked as far as I'm concerned. He's not the sort of person. Yeah. He's not someone who I would ever consider having any kind of, because his only interactions with me have been him coming onto my channel and calling me names. So, you know, like that's just someone who's, when you do that, you're just saying, hi, I'm the kind of person I'm a member of the other side who is not reasonable, and never try and contact me and have a reasonable conversation with me because it will be pointless and fruitless. That's what he's really communicating there. So, you know, and this happens to me a lot, you know, like what am I supposed to do with that? You know, like, you know, when people go, oh, you're not conducive to listen to the other side. It's like, well, I did listen, and they called me names. So, you know, I don't know. And it's not like my feelings were hurt. It's just, what's the point in having a conversation at that point, you know? The person's doing everything they can to tell you that there's no point to it.
But, I mean, I think that's actually why Against the Odds group is good. Because, I mean, Chrissy, she was like moderating it and stuff. And basically the guidelines... And
she's not the only moderator, by the way, listeners.
Yes, there's
well, other people do. I'm not involved in the moderation.
Two in the middle. Or one in the middle.
Sorry,
but the way
it was for interrupting.
It was
just wanted
being
to
run.
point that out before people were like, "Oh my god, it's just run by feminists."
But it was being run like, you know, the group doesn't exist for like feminists to come in and start going on about all of their issues about like.
It's not a feminist training center, basically.
Like, and like the pay gap is real and blah blah blah, or MRAs and people to come in, and there's a few people few MRAs who came in and just started stirring shit and being like.
Yeah, the only
this is all bullshit. It's all lies and
shit have been MRAs.
Yeah, and Chrissy was basically like, well, this group is not about us just fighting about our issues. It's about men's issues and actually talking about that and actually like focusing on that. Because you can go anywhere on the internet to have these partisan battles about, you know,
the whole point
is good, bad, feminism bad. Yeah, exactly. You know.
Speaking
I feel
of,
like some people can't put that aside. It's absolutely impossible. They can't put that aside. Like they have to come rampaging in and be like, feminism is lies, and it's like that's not what this group is for. It's not for us to just fight about everything that we already fight about. You know,
Emma, I think wanted to say something.
No, I agree with you. I was just gonna say, speaking of that, why don't we try and discuss some men's issues?
Sure. So I think one that is pretty straightforward. Like, first, let's just break down the issues versus rights thing.
Oh yeah.
To me, more of the importance lies more in broadly issues than specifically rights. But rights should at least get listened to. I mean, if they can make a case, they can make a case. If they have a problem, they have a problem. But starting with issues more, be solid would be male rates of suicide.
Right. Well,
I just wanted to say that my friend Captain Meikle made a video specifically about the issues versus rights debate, and he came down on the other side. He said that it should be rights. So, and
what was his reasoning for that?
It's been too long since I saw it, but it is in my playlist of his videos.
Can you just give a very basic summation?
I don't even think I could do that. No, I watched through all of his videos on men's rights, but that was months ago. So yeah, I just remember that he did one that was called that. Yeah, and I do remember that he came down on the other side. But yeah, and he was someone who it would have been nice to get in this hangout, but unfortunately, he's just. Yeah, I tried. Is all I can say. I tried.
I think well, just like with what I was interested in about the group, I think when I came in, I was just looking around to see like what can I contribute to the most. And I have had a history with depression and like struggling with just feeling like life wasn't worth living, and I don't know how to deal with it. And I think I just thought that's something that I can actually talk about, and I can actually make a positive contribution in that area. So that's what I wanted to be involved in. And I've had a lot of ideas about actually working on a video about that. I've been distracted by other stuff, just like stupid drama and the election and all that shit. But I really want to just try to make a video that could help somebody, you know, and it's not the usual bullshit.
Yeah, that's very admirable.
You know, I haven't got around to it yet, so don't give me any praise or credit, but I would just love to make a video just talking about the issue of depression and suicide without any of all the political, like none of the political shit. Just talk about that issue, my experience with it, my history with depression, how I've dealt with it, things that might work, like things you could look to help you with that. I mean, I think, you know, that's something I can actually
I mean, that's
do
not something that is exclusive to any, you know, any part of the political spectrum.
All right, but I could talk about it from a perspective of men. I mean, I am a man despite popular opinion, so I can still talk about that.
It's funny, even though I sort of have my own background in this regard that you're talking about, one of the issues that I'm more drawn to is actually male rates of incarceration and prison abuse and that sort of thing. And I was thinking of making a video on that at some point in the future. And another thing Emma and I have talked about, which I really should actually start making plans and writing. Sorry, I haven't sent anything your way yet, Emma, but we had talked about doing something that's like neither through a gynocentrism or patriarchy model, just a sort of fun, lighthearted look at differences between the genders, differences between masculinity and femininity, the good and the bad, and just sort of talking about it and starting a conversation about it that's not political.
Also, what those mean. I mean, because
that's also important.
That's pretty hard to figure out sometimes.
Yeah, I was thinking of it in just like the traditionally understood senses. I'm not trying to legitimize that and saying that people shouldn't not be those things while still being like, yes, I am a man. But looking at it through.
The question isn't if it's traditional or not. The question is, are you talking about gender roles or are you talking about biological differences?
I think it was going to be a bit of both.
I think.
Sorry, Emma?
Yeah, I think it was going to be a bit of both, and maybe getting into a discussion of how much is biological, how much is gender roles. My feelings on that are pretty mixed.
Well,
and I think it's really interesting. Like, I don't think I have, you know, the answers or anything like that at all. I just think it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah, I agree. And I was just going to say that the problem with something like that is that it's very, very complicated. And as soon as you have that conversation outside of an academic context, you're going to miss things out. And
and that's what makes it interesting to me. And I think it will be really important to say, like, to make it clear, like, you know, that I'm not saying that, you know, I know everything or understand everything. It's just like, let's discuss it.
You must be new to the internet.
I think I don't think, sorry, just Garrett, to take you up on the academic context. I think there's a value to it, making it kind of non-academic, making it easily relatable. So I think the idea of the videos is not to, sorry, just let me explain. The idea of the videos is not to say we know what masculinity and femininity are. The idea is more just like sharing stories about what it's been like, and like, for example, we were going to bring up the workplace as a sort of as a basis, right? And we would just probably talk about our experiences, like everything from, say, I could say most of the real jerk-offs who did nothing, but Emma can go and say, well, there's often a thing in the workplace of women not liking women bosses. So we get all these interesting things.
And I think we should say that people should value, you know, academic research, and let's look at what research has been done and what it says and all of that. It's not about saying that isn't something we should really value, but it's just, let's make it a public conversation because it's interesting.
Yeah.
See, this right here is an example of kind of the academic contexts aren't not easily understood or immediately esoteric or immediately based on something that you have to be a genius to understand. What I'm saying is, what I'm saying is that, you know, and you said a public way. Well, academic context can be public as anything, you know. I just think
sorry, I didn't mean that it wasn't. That's my bad phrasing.
These sorts of reactions, though, to bringing up the desire to make things as scholarly as possible, this bad reaction to that is kind of something that I struggle with, because it does irritate me, because it's misconceptions, you know.
But we're not talking about it like it can have an academic underpinning, but be
it should. I want it to.
Yeah, but
and it can still be funny.
Discussing in a light-hearted way. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. The amount of lectures that I've had that have been hilarious, you know.
The number that I've had that have been boring as fuck. Oh, God.
It means you got to put a little bit more work into it.
I should admit my bias,
most boring man ever. Gone.
I just think
that I have had a very poor history with education on a lot of levels, so that might fuel my my attitudes there. But I do agree that to what extent intellectual rigor can be achieved, whether it's not necessarily academic, it's worth trying for. I can agree with that.
I guess what I'm saying is we can't on one hand go, Shoe on Head just makes videos that she says are entertainment, but in the process of that, she's not rigorous enough and accidentally puts out misinformation sometimes. We can't say that and then do it. You know what I mean? Like, we have to be, even if we are making comedy, we have to be rigorous. We have to make sure everything's accurate. And, you know, you have to just at least go to the level of is my anecdotal experience representative of a larger sociological reality? And, like, you know, if you at least do that, then, you know, at least you're not putting out something that is not representative, you know.
And with some things, there isn't a lot of data, there isn't a lot of things
that's kind of the problem. A lot of this falls into like a lot of gray areas and difficult to measure areas.
Yeah, but you can still,
but I see your point.
You can still have, it's about your mindset in approaching it. And there's definitely a lot of the stuff I talk about on my channel. You look up stuff and you're like, you just wish there was that study there, or you know, preferably 10 studies there, but there isn't. You know, like I remember in my Tommy Sotomayor video, it brings up this really specific thing, and I'm like, there's not going to be any data on that. That's so specific. You know, there's not going to be a study addressing that specific thing. It wasn't.
Like that issue that Josh brought up about how I had said that I'd had times where I'd had female bosses that I had responded badly to, and I had kind of had quite sexist attitudes towards that I wouldn't have had towards a male boss, which is all on me. That was something that I brought up in response to having seen a study that was reporting that like women had a fairly high rate of having felt that way. And I don't know, I'd have to have another look at it to see what the sampling size was and all of those things.
What attitude was that?
I just found it really interesting given my own anecdotal experience. An attitude that that they thought they were like too bossy, or they thought they were unfair or annoying, things like that. Whereas they might just think that a male boss was just being a firm leader, and they showed that sometimes women had more of a problem with female bosses than their male underlings did.
I wonder if men could feel similar ways sometimes, like.
And I don't know how good of a study that was.
This guy's trying to like be a better man than me.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, I bet you there is something to that.
Women respond worse to female comedians than men do. That's another similar thing. Women laugh less at female comedians than men do. Yeah, I was going to say that it was really interesting when you said that was on you, because it's not. And that's what
not entirely. I am a product of my society.
Internalized phenomenon.
What I mean is that it would be on you if your position was out of line with the norm.
Femogeny. Internalized femogeny. That's what it was.
If your position was totally out of line with what's the observable norms, that would be on you. But if it isn't, then it's not. At least to some degree, it is to a lesser degree at the very least. So that's what I mean. Like, if you make that step and look into that, you can think, oh, okay, this actually isn't totally out there, and so then that informs what you're working on, what you're doing.
That's
the presentation of the information.
I think that's fair advice, Garrett. I think we should try and relate a lot of what we end up talking about to any kind of studies or real data we can find. Just one thing I'd like to add, even when we're being maybe very anecdotal and we're into the areas that are difficult to talk about, but maybe still worth talking about, I think we can at least take the approach where we're honest about, like, this may or may not be the case, we just wanted to bring it up, or this could be the exception, or it could be the rule, we don't know.
Yeah.
You mean like the importance of disclaiming?
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Now, I would, for example, I would have a lot less problems with someone like Bering, for example, if he was a bit more careful with that stuff, Like, I'm not trying to demonize all of feminism here. I'm just having a fun look at very specific individuals and not trying to make a wider point. If he said that, I would have less of a problem with it.
That would be so helpful.
Yeah. I think it would make a big difference, but people like him, they don't do that. And
we got that guy T in the chat. Oh my god! Can you explain to us why absolute corporate rule is such a great thing, please, in 5 words or less?
No, that's too partisan. We're not going into that stuff.
I really would appreciate that.
Stay the fuck out of that area.
Yeah, hello there, guy T.
But to just bring this back to what Joshua was saying originally, like, so how does this relate to your vision of how videos about masculinity and or femininity would actually look in terms of like being accessible, and like what would the underpinning be to actually, create a greater understanding of these issues, what they mean?
I don't know if it will help with that. I just think it will be a fun way to do a pretty non-partisan look at an interesting topic.
Right.
Well, I think actually, to an extent, like, if what we do gets some good conversation going, and if it's also like asking questions and saying, is this the norm? Should it be the norm? Can it be changed? Is it likely to not change? Getting people to think in these ways. I think that could be valuable in a small way.
You make a good point. The more stuff that people can create and put out there that is like that, I think that's all helpful to some degree,
Yeah.
I think when it comes to things like gender roles, one of the first things you've got to do is make it clear to people this affects them. This affects you as a person in your life every day, on an everyday level, everyone in society. And if you can make people get it down to that level where people are like, okay, this is really something that if it changed in society would be a big thing that would make a big impact, a big difference to me personally and to everyone. And I think when you do that, you can discuss these academic things in a way that's people actually connect with. Yeah.
But when I think about like talking about depression and suicide, I think I can just go from my personal experience with that and just how I dealt with it and the ideas that I had about it, and see if that's useful for other people to actually think about.
There is a certain pragmatism in a relatable human approach, as opposed to Garrett made the fair point, right?
That's what I thought about. We're talking about suicide and depression. Was like I have experiences to offer that maybe can be useful for other people. I don't know. It might not be useful.
You have to be pragmatic to a certain degree as well, because we know, as much as I value all the scholarly stuff and I don't want to forget about it and just abandon it, we know from many studies that people's opinions often aren't shifted by that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, it's often presented in an inaccessible way, but that doesn't mean it's fundamentally inaccessible.
No, I agree. I don't think it is either.
Even things like hard physics can be made accessible if you do it. You have to be very careful in how you do it, but you can do it.
I just think it's funny how people are often like, oh, you're making an emotional argument. This is just emotions. And it's like, well, do humans have emotions?
Yeah, emotions aren't necessarily bad.
Yeah, sometimes emotions are useful because they actually make you think about something, and you don't always necessarily come to a completely ridiculous, irrational conclusion just because you came to it emotionally. Sometimes you're like, that's something I hadn't thought of before, and then it actually generates thought as well.
This might seem a bit random, sorry, but the whole emotions connected to the intellect, there is no greater proof that they are absolutely intertwined than music. Because music, we can't interpret music without a sense of logic. Because if you know how it works, you know that it's all logic, it's all ratios and other things, and a highly developed sense of aesthetics. But it gets directly into our emotions from that logic with no gap. Sorry, that's just a favorite little theory of mine. I thought you might like it.
Yeah. One thing I would say is that the thing that always strikes me about the whole emotions are bad when talking about serious issues things is that, to me, if you're talking about something that is shocking and awful in terms of like a human rights issue or a social issue that affects a lot of people, and you're not affected by it emotionally, that's the scary thing. If you can sit there and research like rape prevalence, for example, and just be like, no reaction, you're a scary person. That's
when I would put it. See somebody that is discussing, something really serious with human rights or whatever, and they're upset or they're angry, that in no way makes me think that they're less of a good voice on that subject.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of these things of the work being done in these areas are being done by volunteers as part of charities. You can't do that unless you have an emotional connection to the issue. Why would you spend all your time not getting paid and like just giving up all your time and energy with no reward in terms of the capitalist system our society uses? Of course you have to be emotionally connected to it. It's the most it's a ridiculous argument.
Bloody hell, Tim! Why did you bring it up? You brought it up, you bastard.
I see some people.
That guy teased around. I want to see what he thinks of Trump.
Before Tim did that, I saw some people in the chat discussing circumcision, and that's something that I would like to see against the odds turn its attention to at some point once some of the other stuff's done with.
Well, I think the issue with the male circumcision discussion is that it almost always ends up being. And I think I talked to Bain about this in Hangout recently. It always usually ends up being about which is worse, male or female. And that's just that's the inevitable path that it always goes down.
And it's a false dichotomy. It's not like we can only stop one, so therefore we need to focus on stopping FGM.
Well, it's kind of relative privation, isn't it? Because I mean, there's lots of bad shit in the world, and just because other bad shit exists doesn't mean that this original bad thing doesn't exist. And I also
think when it comes to circumcision, it's really helpful to also think about why is this so widespread in America and in Islamic countries and things like what's behind it? If you look at America, is supposed to be this first world, really advanced country. Why are they doing this? It's ridiculous, And I think if you look at that side of it, it does make it very clear it's a different kind of issue from FGM. FGM is a very black and white thing, culturally, I mean culturally, in terms of the way people think about it. There's no people who are like, yeah, FGM, but with circumcision, there is people like that. Why is that? And what can we do to address that?
What do you guys think of this comment? There's a comment in the chat that says legal mutilation of kids is wrong, period. What do you guys think?
I agree completely.
But that's the thing.
It should all be banned.
We can talk about why it's different, Garrett, but I think a good meeting point is just to say, well, we can just attack both pretty reasonably. But I think it is interesting to ask why male circumcision is treated so differently than female circumcision. And let's face it, maybe there is that slight point that sometimes the MRM type guys make. I don't think it's the world is 100% gynocentric or anything like that, but we do look at men and women differently in terms of what we're going to defend and advocate for them for.
We also have the perception that FGM, we tend to think of it, or I do this myself a lot, we tend to think that all of it is the worst kind of FGM, and we tend to think that all male circumcision is done in a safe, hygienic hospital environment in America. We forget about the genital mutilation of boys in a lot of other countries around the world that isn't happening in those conditions.
So that was brought up in my conversation.
And I do still think FGM is overall worse. Maybe I am wrong because a lot of people tell me that, and I need to look more into it and all this. Not saying that's not possible, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we can all, I think, agree that it's all wrong on some level, and
I think that's a good argument to make. FGM may be worse for the individual case, but because male circumcision is so much more widespread, quality versus quantity type thing. That's probably a horrible way to phrase it, but it's really worth addressing both for both of those reasons.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying though is that FGM can be viewed as an entirely legislative activist issue, whereas MGM, circumcision, is a socio-cultural activism issue. You need to change hearts and minds before any kind of law enters into the equation, because that's just how humans are. So we need, if we're going to address circumcision, we can't address it in the same way as we would address female genital mutilation. And so to me, that's why they're different.
You make a good point in that there are some, it's not like everyone in society would agree in the West that male circumcision should be banned. There are, everyone, we agree it should. It seems everyone in the men's rights movement thinks it should. But outside of that, there are a lot of men that don't think that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and
you've got to get them on board.
One of the things I had a conversation with Angry Bastards about that. He's pro circumcision, and I don't know if I guess he still is, but I had a really pretty lengthy conversation with him about it, in which I basically built a case against circumcision as a bodily autonomy issue, using the Constitution of the United States to say, like, look, according to the Constitution, this should probably be illegal to do on babies. But yeah, and so you can do that. But you don't need to do that with FGM. You can just say, look, it's FGM. Everybody hates FGM. So, yeah, so there's a whole extra massive step on circumcision where we need to do this whole other work before we can even get to that point.
I think the issue with male genital mutilation is that, at least when I was growing up, it wasn't unusual to think of it as just a procedure that you can do and it's fine. And I'm thinking just about like the things that I learned about it growing up. I just thought like that's kind of normal. Like some people are circumcised, some people aren't circumcised. It just seemed like my impression is that recently it's become something that people are really analyzing and actually thinking about. Because growing up, I just thought, well, that's just like something that they do to men.
And that was my perception too, Tim. And I just want to bring up though that someone in the chat has been saying to win hearts and minds in the Middle East or something. I think there is both a legislative and a hearts and minds battle to be fought on both sides, and it's all worth doing. Obviously, it's a bit different on either side. It's fair to point that out, but it seems to me You just sort of
I
have
never
to deal with
said
it all.
that there wasn't legislation involved in fixing circumcision. I just said that you in fact, I said you do need that, but you need to do that.
Oh, okay.
You need to do the social, cultural stuff first, because at the moment there's no. If you
Yeah,
tried to
there's-
pass a
You're not going
law,
to pass the legislation without that.
yeah.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
passed,
of course,
if you tried to
of course.
pass an anti-circ law now, it wouldn't go anywhere.
Is
It's
it
a bit like the state of
true-
New York tried to pass a statewide ban. It would get knocked down overnight.
Is
You
it
need to
true that
make-
it's only recently that people have actually started analyzing this in any great detail?
God, no. But no, like,
No.
this issue has always been, there's like a whole swathe of issues on either side of the political spectrum that are used as like comedy examples of like, this is the sort of stuff that kooky people on the far left or far right talk about. Anti-circ used to be one of those for the left. In fact, in Arrested Development, it might even be the first episode ever of the TV show Arrested Development. The sister, Lindsay, who's like the kooky liberal activist one, who just takes up all these issues she doesn't necessarily care about that much. I believe in the first episode, she's doing an anti-circumcision campaign. And it's it's the butt of a joke in terms of, look at this, how silly this is. It's silly and far left this is. That's gone now. It's not a silly far left position anymore, which is good. But
Yeah.
Just leave the babies alone. Let them be fucking babies, for fuck's sake. And also, like, okay, I don't want to bring in the. Oh, sorry, I just want to make a point quickly. I don't want to bring in like the most hated people of all time, but Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks talks about he was circumcised at like the age of 9 or something, or 10 or 11 or something, and that's mind blowing to me. Like, you're in front of like all your friends, not friends, I don't know, family and stuff, and you're having a ceremony where you're being circumcised in front of everyone. And I was like, Jesus Christ, that's traumatizing.
When you talk about circumcision from a legislative point of view, that's the first step, in my opinion. If you look at it from how these things usually work, the first thing you need to do is get it banned from doing on babies and make it like you need to be 10 years old or something. And the reason you can't do it older than that is because, unfortunately, with circumcision, once you get past about 17, it becomes medically dangerous to do the procedure safely. So you need to do it before you turn.
I can only imagine being 9 or 10 and being circumcised in front of my fucking family.
Can you ask that again, Emma? I didn't hear you.
What procedure is that? Sorry.
I don't know the numbers, but when in that conversation with I could look it up because Angry Bastards was talking about it. He said like, look, this is the reason it's a thorny issue is because the people who want to get it done for religious reasons or cultural reasons or whatever, they need to do it before the age of 17, or their risk of a bad medical side effect, whatever, spikes. And so, fair enough. Okay, I think 16 or whatever or 15 or something around that area
think 16. It would come with the risk of like they could still be pressured by the parents into doing it, but that's the case with a lot of things that already exist.
And Angry Bastards brought up a really interesting point, actually, which is that he knows a family of 6 boys, and the way they do it is they waited till 10 years old, and 4 of the boys said no at 10. So that's 4 people who would have been mutilated if they'd done it as babies. So that to me, that's the first step. This is the sort of situation, a sort of problem where you do it incrementally. If we can first get people to say, okay, don't do it on children younger than 10, then we can go to 12, then we can go to 15, and then maybe it'll end up somewhere around there.
Imagine if the cutoff point was like 16, and it was like, and they were like, hey, you've reached your 16th birthday. So, based on like our cultural practice, would you like to be circumcised now? I'd be like, probably not.
You don't think it's going to have a big opt-in rate, and I'm absolutely fine with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that the really pro-circumcision people don't want this because they know it'll reduce the rates of circumcision. You know? So, yeah.
Like, no, I'll think about it in my 20s or something.
I think we've covered that pretty well. I think it's also important to note we're mostly finding, again, common ground here, and we're finding a lot of things that I think a lot of people say not as left as a lot of us, or more on the right side, or however you want to phrase it. I think we're actually seeing that we might end up finding more common ground if we sort it more often.
Yeah, that's probably very true.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think being in favor of any bodily autonomy argument is pretty common on the left. So if you're on the right and making an argument that's bodily autonomy related, you're probably going to get a lot of allies on the left for that.
Yeah, I think we need to make that issue just about consent.
But I think people...
That's what it comes down to.
people
that's
also
why
have to realize it's an issue, because a lot of people don't know that it's a problem because they don't even like think about it. It's just like,
well, that's the problem with a lot of the men's issues. Another one I'd like to move on to that's maybe a little more interesting. I think I mentioned earlier. What do we think about male incarceration rates and prison abuse? I mean, should it be attacked as a gendered issue? I mean, people will say because of the numbers in, say, certain crime statistics of say, DV, well, I don't want to get into DV right now, that it is a gendered issue. Well, if we look at the rates of incarceration, it is a gendered issue.
Are you referring to the sentencing gap or something else?
Not really. I'm more just talking about if we look at the percentage of I'll look it up right now, but it's something like 80 or 90% of prisoners are men and the rest are women.
Yeah, but the men commit more violent crimes, so I mean that's just a fact.
Yeah, but
I think the sentencing gap is the more interesting thing here, because that's when you're comparing, the same crimes.
Exactly.
I think that, because, I don't want to sound like I'm a Sandra. This is just a fact. Men commit insanely more crimes, and I think that will continue to be the case for pretty much ever.
Well, we know why it is. See, this is kind of why I bring up the academic stuff, because we know why it is. We don't need to look for why it is. We know why it is already. The research has been done. So if you reach out to the academic side, you go, you don't need to do that work. Other people have been around to dedicate their lives to doing the work for us. We know why it is. A lot of it's gender roles. It's because the men are considered the breadwinners, and they think of it as their responsibility to, if there's no money coming in, to be the one who goes out and gets it, no matter what, if they're doing crime or a job or whatever it is.
There are certain crimes. I don't want to make it seem like I'm not aware. There are certain crimes that women are more represented in. But yeah, I think the sentencing gap is the more interesting thing.
Yeah, with the sentencing gap, that you don't need to go into all the grey, murky crap of the gender roles argument, because it's just black and white. They're on paper. It's a fact.
It's very black and white when you can see, like, this man committed this crime and this woman committed this crime, and she got a lesser sentence. She's considered less culpable.
We can talk about the sentencing gap, but I don't think I fully accept this whole gender roles of the explanation, because to me,
they're part of it. A big part. Yeah.
But let's start asking. Okay, if men have this great propensity to commit crimes, and maybe they do, do we then start accepting arguments like maybe men have a greater propensity to do ordinary work? I mean, I've heard it proposed that men are the high-risk gender.
Greater propensity, to what degree it exists, is not as high as the gap that there is in incarceration and in how many crimes are being committed.
The thing is, it comes down to, are you making a biological argument or a socio-cultural argument? Because if you're making a biological argument, you're saying this is fixed, it can't be changed. I don't think that. I think the socio-cultural stuff makes up for a very decent portion of it. I'm not saying.
I would say it's probably both. It's probably partly biological and partly social, and it'll be very difficult to determine how much of each.
It's not that difficult, and it's already been done. Like, that's the thing, is that you can look at these things, and actually, generally speaking, when you look at them, they mostly turn out to be sociocultural and not biological. And that's what has been consistent. I mean, you can't just say it's going to be that way and not do the research. You still have to do the research, but the trend is, when you look into it, it's mostly socioculture and can be changed. And that's why I bring up this whole men being the breadwinners and wanting to go out and be the one who's responsible for the income of their family. Imagine if the society didn't have that at all. If there was none of that. If it was exactly 50-50 in terms of who feels like they should go out and make money for their family. Do you really think that the crime disparity would be as high in terms of men committing more crimes than women? Of course it would be more similar.
I think the disparity of crime rates probably can be solved a lot by improving the gender perceptions, if you will, and the roles and that kind of thing. I'm not saying that's not the case. Then why aren't we talking about that more seriously? I mean, some people will talk a great deal about needing more women in the boardrooms, and that kind of thing, and that's in merit. But again, there's very little talk about how do we reduce the number of men in prison. So if you think it's achievable, which I tend to think it's achievable to at least make a meaningful difference,
Of course.
why isn't it more of an issue?
Well, partly because traditional conservatives don't want to reduce gender roles in society. They like gender roles in society. So there's a whole massive chunk of society who is vehemently against doing the kind of work that you'd need to do to fix it. That's the first hurdle.
I do think there is one thing which is legitimately just a gender role perception, which is that when a man is abused by a woman, people generally, well, not all, like people say, man the fuck up. Why can't you deal with that? Like, what a fucking pussy. You got beat up by a woman or whatever. But that's legitimately traumatizing for a decent chunk of people. But it's just completely dismissed. Like,
I know it's not very scientific, but there was that example that they did that was quite striking, where they had a couple fighting in a park and they had it shot on camera. And it only took a few minutes for when the man was abusing a woman for someone to intervene. It took like hours and hours for someone to intervene when the woman was abusing the man. And
because you kind of assume he's going to leap into action and do something to prevent his abuse because he's a guy. So, he's going to figure out.
That's not the only thing. Like, one woman was thinking, he must have done something wrong. She thought, yeah, the woman is taking it out on that man. He's done something bad. I mean, that was the perception that he got.
All right.
I got really kind of disheartened recently when the YouTuber Peach Bailey made a video where she called up different domestic violence groups, support groups in Australia, and she was basically asking them about, like, where do you direct if a man calls and says that he's a victim of domestic violence, what do you kind of tell them? Are there any shelters or whatever, blah, blah, blah. There weren't, but another thing, which I expected, but another thing she brought up that I hadn't thought about was how she said that she's had a lot of people that had done this and had gotten directed to, like, anger management courses and that kind of thing. And I can't imagine how frustrating and upsetting it must be to be going through that and be trying to find help and then have that happen, to be directed to an anger management course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when you come up against these things in which socio-cultural norms are on the other side of the aisle from you, it's powerful, man. You feel like society is an antagonist in your life story. It's become like a villain and everyone's against you, and then, like, yeah, it's horrible. And that's why I think gender roles are so bad. Well, part of the reason is because there's just I don't like using the word oppression, but using that word metaphorically, it's like it's an oppressive feeling. It's like, fuck, just, can't I just be, it's like you feel like you're not free, that it's affecting your liberty. But I feel like sorry, I just wanted to bring up that when I was saying before about how there's sociocultural and legislative, that's reductionist because there's a third thing. And when you bring up domestic violence perceptions of male victims, that's where this third thing becomes important, which is reforming groups that are part of the government but don't require legislation to do so, like police, for example. You can, like, institute new programs in police without having to do any real difficult legislative work. And that's like what's happening with the domestic violence thing, well, and will hopefully increasingly happen, is the training police to not just assume when they walk into an IPV, intimate partner violence call, that the man's the perpetrator and the woman's the victim.
I can see why that bias exists, given a lot of stuff they probably experience other times, but that doesn't mean it's not something that's extremely unfortunate and something that we need to, train against and all of that.
Yeah, and people like police, it's not like that's their only bias. They're human beings. They've got all kinds of biases. And so, like, and they should all be addressed. That's the utilitarian argument, is that just because it's the minority of who's committing a crime doesn't mean it shouldn't be taken just as seriously and addressed in the same objective way. And so that's why I think, like, if you get them to consciously think when, say, they're driving their car and they're on their way to their call and an IPV call, to not be thinking it's probably going to be the man, to be consciously thinking it could be either, don't go in there thinking that, and to be very aware of it. That's what it requires. And I think, so that kind of issue is a very an easier solve, in my opinion, because although in America it's pretty hard to convince the police to institute new training programs, as I'm sure we all know from what's been going on there. But assuming that you can do that, it's easier. It should be theoretically easier than passing federal legislation or doing wide-scale socio-cultural change in the, like, start with the police on an IPV issue is what I was going to bring up anyway.
That's a pretty good point. I think making what small productive changes can be made to what institutions are within reach of the community, that's a good step.
Hey, sorry everyone, but I'm going to have to go. Sorry, I got a call when I was getting ready for this hangout, and it's kind of messed with my night. But yeah, this has been really interesting, and I want to. Definitely want to be involved in more of these. And sorry I couldn't be there for the whole thing.
Fantastic.
All good.
Thanks for coming,
thanks, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
See ya.
All right, see you later.
So yeah.
I have to go to the bathroom real quick. So you guys talk about something.
Jesus.
I'll come back.
Why don't we address the chat a little bit?
You
'cause
do
I
have a
wanna
weak
listen.
bladder.
I'm drinking beer. Somebody said, I love watching you drink beer and get red-faced and start ranting about stuff. And they were being sarcastic. They actually fucking hated me.
Off you go. Off you go.
All right, see ya. Piss yourself.
Yeah.
So much beer. Never.
There's not smell vision, so
Ugh.
I'm gonna just go for it.
Okay.
Okay, fucking feminazi. Now we can talk honestly. Fuck.
So what's the fucking feminazi? Sorry.
I'm just saying it's great that Tim's gone now, so we can talk honestly about what fucking
yeah.
they are.
No, we're don't tell them, guys, but we're infiltrating the SJW.
Yeah. This is all a plot.
Yeah, this is
People
all
think
a
that
plot.
it's about the feminists re-educating us, but it's actually about us re-educating them.
Absolutely. Well, we should probably make it clear. I'm sort of a centrist on all of this. So if I'm in an MRA stream, I'll talk more feministy. If I'm in a feministy stream, I'll talk more MRA-ish. Like, I really believe in both playing devil's advocate and also trying to get close to where their viewpoint is.
I really believe in trying to, like, even if you don't agree with someone, understanding what they think and why. Like, I want to always be at a point where if I had to pretend to be the opposition, I could do it convincingly,
Yeah.
Because that shows you, I think it's just easier to, if you want to refute something, to do it, if you know that.
I think your best debating partner it always has to be yourself. And to do that, you got to learn to play devil's advocate even with yourself.
And I always loved, I did debating in school, and I always, I never liked it initially when I got given, when I had to defend the side of the topic that I personally disagreed with. I was always kind of like, oh, damn it. But I always ended up really enjoying it because I found that I always had a better understanding of why I felt the different way that I did. And I always felt like I was better able to articulate why I felt the way I did. Because even though I wouldn't expose them in the actual debate competition, I knew what the holes in the opposing argument were really well, because I had looked into those arguments and, I'd had to try and hide the holes, in a sense.
Well, can we start talking about the orange goblin in the room?
No!
No.
Oh, God. We've
Start.
done so well. We've done so well. Okay, Tim, if you must.
No, because what Emma was saying actually made me think of something that I was talking to someone about today, which is we were talking about the whole Trump thing, and I was saying I think it's going to undermine LGBTQ rights due to the Supreme Court and all this kind of stuff. And he basically said, Trump said it was a states' rights issue. And then instantly I was like, oh, this fucking debate again. I've heard this debate a million times. I know all the arguments. And I just said, dude, can we just not bother.
Yeah, look, that's great
states'
if you're
rights.
in states that will keep those things in place. But it's horrible if you're in the states that won't.
I think
I know,
states' rights
and we've already had this debate with the civil rights thing in the 60s when they were like, the feds had to step in and say, look, it's not a states' rights issue. You cannot discriminate against black people who want to come into your business and sit on the fucking bus. And it's like, this has been, people have been going over this
and
for
I
decades,
feel like
and it's just like,
should
I
be
don't
that
want
type
to
of thing.
fucking go over this again. Like,
I tend to think that the Americans have strange ideas about what should be state-based and what should be federal. And I think that these ideas are so tied up in whatever partisan battles they're fighting that there is no real sense of like appropriate, what you might call delegation.
Well, I
I
think
think
you're a
it's
states'
just,
rights
how do we
guy.
win this fight
That
with
person,
the federal government? We win it by siding with the state, and that's always
the
what
states'
it's
rights
about.
guy is just never going to agree with you. Like, there's no way of actually getting through. So it feels like when someone says it's a states' rights issue, it feels like they've put down a barrier, because it's like, I don't know how I can ever. They just have no interest in hearing about how the Supreme Court actually matters.
With them, that would be my point, to be like, okay, well, I really disagree with you. I think that it's one of those fundamental equality things that should just be in place everywhere. But okay, you're not going to budge from that. So now I'm going to be trying to convince you of why your state should adopt this.
Well,
right. Well, I mean,
think
federal issues are kind of like a failsafe when it's just like the states are just not getting it done. And like in the 60s, they had to step in and say, look, like the states are just not dealing with this.
And that's
just
what
for
I
the
feel
integrity of the entire fucking nation, they have to do something.
You know, I just kind of said that as like a don't feel too bad for you specific people that live in like California or Oregon. You know, it's not going to fuck it up for you. But yeah, absolutely, it will for people in other areas, and that's fucked. I hate that.
Yeah. So I've already started a battle about states' rights in the fucking chat. So apologies.
that's great. Look, Americans, I think here in Australia we don't have such a strong sense of like the idea of the state is that it's a delegation in order to deliver services, and it doesn't have that much. I mean, I really should bloody research this a bit more. I'm talking out of my ass probably, but my impression is that the states are a bit more for the purposes of like taking care of the local healthcare, the local education, that sort of thing. And the federal government really sets the precedent in terms of legislation, if you know what I mean. That to me seems reasonable. That to me keeps the consistency around the country. You know, you can get all sorts of weird things where different states will have different standards, and everyone needs to adapt to this and that. It doesn't seem efficient to me. And I'm pretty sure that the states' rights versus federal rights, or whatever you want to call it, I think it often comes down to a sort of a ideological position, sort of the states must be independent. There's sort of a values thing. So getting into it with like a sort of but it might be more efficient this way, they'll say, no, we just want it this way. It's a value. And that's why it's so difficult to talk about.
Well, I think a lot of the time, like federal regulations at their best help maintain the integrity of the entire fucking country. So it like I think at their best they are things like the civil rights legislation. But
America is a tremendously divided country and pretty much always has been.
Definitely, yeah.
But that's part of why
it's a very, very diverse country. So yeah, it's not surprising.
Yep.
In some ways.
So how are we surviving after the Trump victory?
We're surviving. To me, what I said was I'm actually more willing to engage, more willing to do what needs to be done, more willing to be pragmatic than ever before, because this is a part of history. This is not all of history. We have to do what we can to try and build a better future now. We work with Trump supporters when we can. We don't work with them when we can't. We work with people in the middle. We try and build up the left into something that's better, that isn't going to lose in this horrible way again. That's my interpretation.
I'm feeling really, really energized now, to be honest, and it's kind of horrible to be like, oh yay, this is kind of good for me personally in a way, but I think we have a lot of room to do some good.
And to speak in
I like what you said there about it's not the whole of history; it's a part of it, and we have to work for the rest of it to make that as best as we can.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's interesting because, like, with the against the odds group, I'm involved in the whole depression and suicide thing. And to be honest, I have seen so many people being like, I'm depressed as fuck. I'm just drinking. I don't want to live anymore and shit. I've seen a lot of that around. And also a lot of like LGBTQ people.
I was like that yesterday.
They're basically like, it's all fucking over. Our rights are gone. They're going to take everything away from us. And some of it is quite hyperbolic, but I just want to be like, hey guys, like, it's okay. And just give them a hug. It's all right, guys.
Some of it is really worrying, no doubt. I'm not trying to play that down. But
people have lived in a state of shit before, but then some of them did did commit suicide, but don't do that. Just play it out.
There are people who are going to be
don't kill yourself
very hard to support those people that are the ones that are the most worried right now.
Well, there was a tweet about someone, and it was a news story about how on a certain university campus, heaps of people are like killing themselves, something. I don't know if it was true. I have to look it up. And then somebody just quoted that and snarkily said, like, which campus? Like,
I have to tell the chat, he's not a precious piece of jewelry. It's just PERL.
Ron Perlman.
Someone in the chat saying as well, they hope that Trump's term will cause social justice to calm down, and in some ways I don't think it will, because he's legitimized a lot of their issues.
That person is not paying attention. This is going to put social justice on crack, mother.
This is going to make me way more sympathetic to them than I've been in the past.
I know.
Yeah.
There's going to be a big counter-reaction, and I remember, like, Bush years.
They talk about rape culture, and now people have put that in the Oval Office, so...
Oh, God. What's happened to you, Emma? It used to be cool.
I'll tell you later.
I think it's really important to look at sort of the grand strategic level a little bit. I know it doesn't necessarily help in the moment that much, but let me just lay out a couple things. So when we lost Sanders, we got Clinton. And Clinton, at best, given especially the fact that she had a hostile Congress and Senate, she was going to be at least as disappointing as Obama, if not more so. And I think what could have come after 4 years of Clinton could have been worse than Trump, because it would have just let everything fester even more.
Look, I do think that Clinton would have been a pretty good president. I don't think she would have done anything that terrible, but I do agree that I don't think she would have, even though it might not necessarily have been through the fault of her doing anything wrong specifically, I don't think she would have done an amazing job.
The thing that's festering.
Yeah, she wouldn't have sort of allayed the concerns of certain groups, just in the way that Obama, I think, was a pretty good president.
He was pretty good.
Lots of flaws, lots of things to criticize.
He was a decent man,
but pretty good considering everything he had against him a lot of the time.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The whole way through, though, there was a group of people that were trying to delegitimize his presidency. There was a group of people that were spreading conspiracy theories about him. And I have no doubt that would have kept happening throughout a Clinton presidency. And, I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, the Republican side found a guy that was had the same kind of anti-PC stuff to say, had the same kind of message and vision to put out there, but that didn't have like a history of racial discrimination, didn't have a tape about like sexually assaulting people, didn't mock disabled reporters, all of these things. you know, who could have won even more bigly.
Can I fully blue pill you guys right now? Like hardcore blue pilling?
What do you mean?
It's like Noam Chomsky. Did you guys see Noam Chomsky talked about this and predicted it in 2010?
I heard you say
he was talking.
Say that in your stream with Garrett, and yeah, that was interesting. That was
I've got the quote here. Can I read?
But fuck Noam Chomsky, honestly.
Can I read the quote because it's quite interesting?
Yeah, go.
He said, "The United States is extremely lucky that no honest, charismatic figure has arisen." Well, charismatic, I don't know. Every charismatic figure is such an obvious crook that he destroys himself, like McCarthy, Nixon, etc. If somebody comes along who is charismatic and honest, this country is in real trouble. Well, I don't know if he's honest. Because of frustration, disillusionment, justified anger at the absence of coherent responses. What are people supposed to think if someone says, "I've got an answer, we have an enemy"? There it was the Jews. Here it will be illegal immigrants and blacks. We will be told that white males are a persecuted minority. We will be told we have to defend ourselves in the honor of the nation. Military force will be exalted. People will be beaten up. This could become an overwhelming force, and if it happens, it will be more dangerous than Germany. The United States is a world power, and then just a bunch of regressive shit. But he had a point. He was like, yes.
A lot of that is very prescient. But
I remember him saying back when
he's a bad man.
The institutions have no role in anything.
What's that?
But yeah, fuck him for being isolationist and extremely hypocritical on many of his statements about the actions of other countries in the US.
Right, I'm not saying
intentions don't matter. And I know you're not. I just can't.
You have to love Noam Chomsky. Just like when I mentioned, Cenk Uygur got circumcised, and then everyone in the chat's like, "Such a chunk yogurt," and I'm like, it's just an anecdote. I'm not saying you have to like him.
No, I know. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just that's not like a bad reaction to you. It's just me being like, I can't let it go. I hate him.
I think it's so funny though. Like you mention certain names, and people are just like,
"No, it is."
All right, let's see what happens when I say.
I'm very happy to concede that.
Roche me.
Anita Sarkeesian.
Yay!
Sorry.
I love her.
I'm just throwing a hand grenade into the chat.
My goddess.
Yeah. Sorry, but back on that sort of long-term strategic thing, I think Trump may be the enemy that a lot of people need to actually rally and turn the left, the Democrats, or maybe even a third party, something. It may be enough to make something solid. That's going to be like what we need is a new Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We need a new deal.
George W. Bush, for all that he was like infinitely superior, he was everyone's enemy. And, you know, people did really come together in opposing him. And I hope that this can be the start of a left movement where we end up, hopefully in 4 years, but in 8 if not, with a real left candidate who
a new Bernie Sanders, essentially.
But I gotta say, I was a little bit confused about some of the stuff around Bernie Sanders from people who generally would call me like an SJW and regressive and stuff, because I saw some people who really have issues with like Muslims and black people and that kind of thing supporting, like, who would call me regressive, supporting Bernie. And there was a specific person that I talked to, and I was like, "Why are you for Bernie?" And it's like, he's gonna like fix all the problems and stuff. And I'm like, "But he's pretty much the number one regressive guy."
That I'm really happy about is that, you know, because I criticize Islam a lot, and I want to continue doing that. And I'm really happy that, like, you know, because in doing that, I attracted a bunch of Trumpies who got triggered when they were like, "Oh, you don't agree with them, but why?" And you know, they've all fluttered off and thank fuck.
But I felt like Bernie seemed like the regressive god, the god of regressivism, and everyone is like, "We love Bernie." And it's like,
I didn't agree with Bernie on like a lot of things, like mainly foreign policy, but I think
the microphone to Black Lives Matter.
He did have some really good policies, and I think some of those people that you're referring to, Tim, that were saying that, you know, that you had that kind of reaction to, like, "Oh, but you're calling me regressive, but you're going for Bernie."
I didn't understand.
I think for them, they just, you know, were Americans who were like, well, I can realistically see that these things aren't like the most major issue in America specifically right now. What are major issues in America are healthcare and college and things. Those things matter to them.
But often you couldn't tell that from their rhetoric, which was just 24/7. The regressives are coming.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That
you know,
sure.
and like with
they
Dave
did
Rubin,
spend more time
like,
talking about that.
To be even more divisive, like Dave Rubin was like, I would love to sit down and talk to Bernie, and I was like, why? Like, would you just call him regressive for 2 hours?
You know what? You know what?
Bernie, that's pretty regressive.
He's such a
You can
idiot.
You can say that Bernie Sanders seemed to attract a lot of strange supporters, but you know what? That's probably a good thing. In that people who maybe were dyed in the wool, say anti-socialists, they were willing to listen to a guy talking from his perspective, and that to me is probably a good sign.
I just see a kind of cognitive dissonance between what people rail against and then what they support. Like, I'm railing against all of this, all of this, all of this, and Bernie comes up like, oh, I like that guy. It's like, well,
one thing that I think
you should hate everything about him, to be honest.
Even though, you know, what happened, and he didn't get the nomination and all of that stuff, I think the fact that Bernie was such a significant contender for the nomination is going to be a really great thing for America, because it has shown everybody that there are a significant number of Americans who are not frightened by democratic socialism, and that's great, because they shouldn't be.
Right.
I can tell you.
And 2 New Zealanders, and you're from Australia, is that right?
We're not quite democratic socialists, but I feel like we could get there, you know.
But I feel like the rest of the world is in a different place. So sometimes
Americans tried to institute what we have in our
country, like our kind of medical
they would have been told they were a communist.
Education.
So that's what I mean.
Our kind of stuff.
So by the way, guys, we're not actually allowed to talk about America because we're FARs. So
well, my father is
none of our business.
I am technically a citizen.
You are? Oh, you're allowed to talk about it.
Oh, really? Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It's kind of everyone's business, I think.
Such an important country. It's such an international country.
Yeah.
It's become everyone's business.
I was thinking about this. I was like, what? How?
Go ask people that are living in the Baltics and Syria right now if, you know, this is only the business of Americans, please.
Well, I thought, how could this affect me personally? And it could only really affect me in the same way that the financial crisis affected me in 2008 and 2009, when all of the employment dried up overnight and it was just impossible to find a job. So mainly it could affect me economically. But I don't feel the same kind of terror that a lot of like LGBTQ people and other people feel, and like probably immigrants feel right now. I think a lot of them are terrified. So I don't feel what they feel. I just feel like, oh shit, it'll be hard to find a job. Thanks a lot, Trump.
I think politics should a lot be based. If we want politics to improve, it's got to be at least a little bit based on empathy, human empathy. That's what I try and base a little bit of my politics on.
Yeah, my concern about this isn't going to affect me at all. I don't recall the recession having affected me. I don't think this is going to affect me personally hardly at all. This is all just empathy for people in America, people, like I said, in the Baltics and Syria, and, you know, so many other places, I think, that we don't even potentially know about yet.
And I'm not saying either of you guys seem to have empathy as a factor in your political ideas. But of course, also, I know it's a while back in the chat, but I just want to say, Save Me Rational Thought said, I just want people on both sides of the discussion to stop demonizing the opposites, have real conversations. That is my platform. That is absolutely what I stand for. I'm a centrist, and that's what I believe. Good on you, Save Me Rational Thought. I think what I'm kind of trying to push for, and a lot of what I'm doing online, all these streams and stuff, is pretty much that. And I'm finding it's not so fruitless as some people might think. Anyway, sorry, that's me just banging my own drum. I apologize.
Yeah, I don't think demonization gets anyone very far.
No, it does not. I mean, we can demonize
sometimes it's. I can see why people think that people deserve it, but doesn't achieve anything.
People are talking about whether white people are to blame, and they've been going on about Lacey Green recently saying like, "Fuck all you misogynist white scum," something or other.
Yeah, and you know, I mean,
she was feeling a bit emotional because I mean she's taken
Yeah,
this
yeah,
I
result very badly.
I do retract some of the anger or criticism I would have for that because of me understanding that she must be very emotional. Because
You're being blue-pilled.
You know, I understand that it's emotional and that can make you be hyperbolic and all of that stuff. But yeah, I don't think people should be saying that stuff. I mean, obviously, we know who voted what. We know that, like, you know, we know that white people were with Trump in a lot of the ways. But I don't think it's that simple for a lot of reasons. Like, he did better than Romney did against Obama. Obama was doing better in strong white counties, you know, than Trump did. Yeah. So it's not like people are just so racist.
From what I've read, he did surprisingly well with Latinos as well.
Yeah, exactly. He did surprisingly well with Latinos. He pulled a lot of them in. And the other thing is that, you know, every single picture I saw coming through where it was like, look how upset these Clinton voters look. Somewhere in there I saw a white man that was also looking upset, you know? And I feel really bad for those people because
those photos were very
kind of embarrassed.
Because it's kind of like, if you have been dedicating your entire life to this campaign for a very long time and you get caught in a photo where you're losing, of course you're going to be fucking crying. It's not a surprise. It's not like, wow,
But
look at all these
like
losers being sad that everything, all their hopes and dreams are dying.
Let's be
not necessarily like campaigners.
The Trump people would have flipped their shit if they had lost.
The Trump people would be fucking crying. And then but then again, to be honest, us like lefty SJWs, whatever, we probably would be laughing at them, to be perfectly honest. So
probably maybe a bit.
Your hatred lost. And I'd be like, yes, the tears.
Of course we would. And you know, I think it would be important to be trying to reach out to the one, as much as I don't think it would work in a lot of cases, like I spoke about before. I think it would be important for us to like try and reach out to the ones that aren't in the basket of deplorables and say like, hey, you know, these policies, I think they're actually in your best interest, and here's why. And things like that. And I understand why you know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think we can just say like, oh, the white people did this. I mean, in a sense they did, but it's not as simple as like because racism.
People often vote along racial lines of some kind. And Trump was playing a big message of like, I'm for the white people. So a bunch of them probably were like, yeah.
Maybe even explicit at times in terms of the fact that he was against other races. But I don't think he was saying... He was trying to avoid too much of a white supremacist thing, I think. But,
I think he sent enough messages to be like, hey, guys, come over here. And they were like, all right.
Yeah, he was being a little bit, you know, trying to draw them in. But
the other problem is there's like a little... Sorry,
I just wanted to say, just to reaffirm what I think we were all saying before, we need to take the pragmatic and constructive approach from here on. This is about rebuilding the left into something better than it was. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, right, for sure.
But what is this fucking, like, because I hear about it all the time, what's this true left thing? Like, people are always like, I'm a true liberal. And to me, it's just like saying, I'm a blah, 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 blah. It's just like,
most of the people that say that are full of shit.
I don't even know what it is. Like, you're either like liberal is very broad.
A little bit of a backlash to the true liberal TM thing, and I am starting to see like you could almost call it the true liberals.
I'm a true
liberals. I'm really that liberal, and are like, oh come on, I'm sick of your bullshit, bro. But I think there's like,
you know what we need? We need a truther movement. That's what we need. But
yeah, it's always going to end up getting dumb when you just have a label like that, and you know, people can just define it.
I mean, I got in an argument with someone today who was like, you have to admit your fault at what happened, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I did what I could. I don't know what else I could have done. And then this person like puts this generic criteria on me and says, you have to fulfill this to be a true liberal. And I'm like, well, I don't believe that. I think being a liberal is about fighting for people who don't have anything and fucking need opportunities. That's what it's all about. And I feel like Trump's platform is not going to create opportunities for people.
Well,
So that's
to be
why
frank,
there's no real ideological reason why it has to be, but I've always also thought that I've always just associated liberals with people that try to judge things off evidence and all of that. And
I just see it as like what's going to help people, and by help people I mean like what is going to improve their lives. And to me, an improvement in your life is an opportunity. It's like an ability to get a job, have a decent pay, like be able to support your family, like get an education, like all that kind of good shit. I just think Trump's policies are not as good for that, to be honest. I think like they're very subpar.
I have a video that I'm putting out hopefully tonight, and one of the things I say in there is I think a lot of the Trump voters are going to end up feeling even more cheated than what they did before, because a lot of his policies,
the wall's not going to work out.
Yeah, and a lot of his policies are probably not going to be good for their incomes.
No.
For one thing,
Trump to go in and start fighting the elite and powerful on their behalf, which is like, dude, he is the elite and powerful. He fucking loves these guys. He will empathize with them way more than some blue-collar guy, as much as he can act like he cares about it. He's essentially a narcissist.
But inevitably, people will say Hillary would have done that too with the establishment. And I think, yes, absolutely 100% true. But the only difference is she had better policies.
Yeah, I think definitely there would have been some of that. But also she would have put a lot of good policies into place. So
yeah, because it's not exactly the same. There is like, it's a wash. Like, both of them are bad. Yeah, but she is less bad because her policies
there was
are better.
So much false equivalence drawn between them. That was probably one of the things that irritated me about the whole, rhetoric surrounding the campaign the most, was that, they're both so terrible. And it's like, okay.
But I mean, they are both like personally as beholden to Wall Street and special interests as each other, probably.
Probably.
So... yeah, I mean
that's something like I get that you have issues.
No,
with both,
actually, it's not equal because he's going to cut regulations and taxes more, so it's not equal. But
overall, like I don't think there was any kind of equivalence when you compared like not just that, but all the other aspects of them.
Right. Yeah. Oh God.
I think that brought up an interesting point in the chat. Do we really want Mike Pence if Trump gets impeached or assassinated or something?
Nobody assassinate Trump, please.
A real possibility.
Maybe that's why he got Pence in that, as her firewall against being assassinated by the left.
Fucking great.
That's a good shield. They won't want to kill me if I've got this guy here.
All he has to do is stand in front of Pence, and then there'll be no stop.
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility at all for him to die. And I also don't think it's crazy to think that he might get impeached, because a lot of the Republicans
He's such a fucking wild
really don't like him, and a lot of them would love Pence to be the president.
You know,
so I'm sure there will be a lot of people that will have their eyes out for anything they can get Trump on.
Pretty much all reports are Trump is impossible to work with unless you fully embrace his bullshit. That's what I've heard. I'm sure very quickly we're going to start hearing a lot of stories. Like, I bet you generals resign and secretaries resign. And I'm talking about secretaries.
I see no reason to think that he's going to be one of those people that is like, okay, I just want to hire the best, most qualified person. I want them to tell me the truth, even if it's a truth that I don't like. And, I'll base my decisions on what that ends up being. He wants to hear what he wants to hear. And that is one of the worst things I think you can have.
Well, I received a funny comment where someone was like, we couldn't vote in Hillary because she was the most scandal-ridden and investigation-ridden candidate in the entire world. And I just thought, well, just wait for what's coming. Trump is going to be ridiculously scandal-ridden. It's a guarantee.
I started out the campaign being like, oh, Hillary's like really bad. She's been in all these scandals. Like, this is this is shit, you know.
Trump hasn't had the opportunity to
but I
be
really
a scandal-ridden.
But at that point, I really didn't know very much about any of those scandals. I had just kind of heard people complaining about them, but I'd never actually like read into them myself. And after a while, I did that, and I was like, oh, you know, a lot of them aren't that concerning to me.
A lot of them are quite political, yeah.
Yeah. Or a lot of them are like, it depends on what your interpretation of it is. So like the whole like tape of her laughing allegedly at the young rape victim. A lot of people were like, oh, she's callously laughing at this poor girl. And that's not how I saw that tape at all.
Well,
so,
did you
it depends on your interpretation of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's so true, though. It's down to interpretation. Like, do you want to see it in a nefarious way, or do you want to see it as just like...
Yeah, like, I was quite understanding towards it, where I was like...
Well,
no,
like, in the debate,
that,
I think...
she wasn't trying to laugh at that girl and what she had gone through. It was, oh my God, like, our justice system, when it comes to rape, is fucked. Yeah. And perhaps, you know, feeling a little bit awkward about the part that she played in it at that point when she had to defend that guy.
Well, it reminded me of the debate where Trump was saying, in Saudi Arabia, they throw gays off buildings and all this kind of shit. And then Hillary laughed, and then a lot of people, like, clipped that out of, like, her laughing in response to him saying they throw gays off buildings. But it's kind of like, that's open to interpretation too. She could be laughing at gays being thrown off buildings, which is improbable. Or she's laughing at the fact that he's playing this like political talking point to make her look bad.
And I love the fact that people were saying that the gays thrown off buildings things. So it's just like, do you like honestly?
That's why she was laughing. She was like, ha 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 ha! I love it when gays get killed. Or was she thinking, wow, this guy is a real gutter snipe. He'll just say anything to attack.
I get that people had problems with her having received money from like Qatar and Saudi Arabia and stuff, but
yeah, Trump does business in Saudi Arabia too. He's got
hotels but I get that people had a problem with that. I think there is probably a really good explanation of that she could have given that she unfortunately didn't, and I think that would have been a good thing to hear. But even though I understand people's explanation of that, even though I understand people's like annoyance with that, the way that some people like took it to the next level of saying she loves these regimes, she loves the things they do to women, she loves the things they do to gays, and she you know, she's actually some kind of Islamist plant, is just retarded.
Yeah. By the way, guys, I just want to check. Maybe you guys still have a lot of anti-Trump steam left. I'm sort of running out of it. Do you want to just have a little bit of fun to wrap up the stream and do that?
Right. Well, I was thinking, we're probably like...
All right, yeah.
We've got a time limit here. This is not a Bane hangout. It can't go on for 3.5 hours, guys.
All right, I'm gonna link it in the chat so everyone else can follow along. And oh fuck, it doesn't like that. Shit. It doesn't. Can you hey, I'll share it with you, Tim, on Twitter or something, or Facebook. I don't know. There, it's on Facebook.
So this is that book thing.
This is that book, yes.
Do you want to give some context as to what we're talking about?
Okay, so when he was 16, a young man named Jim Theis took it upon himself to write a fantasy novella, very much in the vein of a Conan the Barbarian, if you will. However, he ran into some difficulties. So we are going to read the great prose.
Hold up, and like why? Like, what's the context behind this?
Wait, but also can you?
It's so bad, it's good.
We could read it off a screen share if somebody knows how to do that. But
oh yeah, so if you've got the link and you can do a screen share, that would be perfect.
I've never ever tried screen share, and I'm a bit terrified, to be honest. Okay. This is like not normal.
It might keep the suspense for people if they can't, you know.
Yeah, it might be better if we just read it from the open web page.
Does this work?
But
yeah, it might kill the suspense.
While Tim's sorting that, do you want to give like a bit of background to like the whole charity stream?
Oh yeah, the charity idea.
That might be happening.
Yeah. Dole. Thanks, Emma.
Wait, hold on.
I think like the weekend after next, maybe, right?
Yeah. So the weekend after next, most
God,
likely.
I'm wrong.
We were thinking of doing a full reading of this book and sort of having a fun stream, like some people do, like gaming charity streams or whatever. And then we, encourage people to donate to something like perhaps Movember or any other sort of worthwhile charities we can think of. But good men's issues charities, men's health charities, that kind of thing. That's the idea. And we thought we'll give it a little trial run now, just for fun.
Because there's quite a lot of people from all sides of the group that want to get into it. So something really like that a lot of people would be willing to get behind would be a good idea for a charity. So yeah, like I think Movember would be a pretty good one. But if anyone has any other suggestions,
yeah, in terms of charity. And I think this is a pretty fun little thing to do as well. I've seen it done. It's a lot of fun. Trust me.
It's being shared on my screen. And, why don't we just say fuck the suspense and just try anyways, so that people can actually see it.
Do it.
I'm gonna. It's a bit small for me, but I might read it from the main page if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to. So how much are we supposed to do in each turn?
Okay, so the way that it works is that if you laugh, you pass. Sorry, Bert. You pass it on.
Okay.
And our job is to try and make you laugh.
Okay.
Who starts?
But if you get through a huge chunk, you can just sort of pass it on if you're getting bored.
Okay.
Am I? Oh.
How much should we sort of aim to do before?
I think the first two chapters is
actual stream.
The first two chapters is not even a quarter, and it covers some good stuff.
Cool. All right.
Who
wants
starts?
to start us off?
I think I will because I know I can't do it. I know it's I've seen it before.
Okay,
You've tried in private.
Who goes after you? What's the order here?
So me, Emma, then Tim. How does that sound? And then back.
Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna be so good at this, I think.
Okay. The weather-beaten trail wound ahead into the dust-racked climes of the barren land which dominates large portions of the Norgolian Empire. Age-worn hoofprints smothered by the sifting sands, and just by the way, you have to read it as written. Spelling mistakes, non sequiturs, all of it.
Okay,
right?
Brilliant. I love doing that with comments and stuff.
By the sifting sands of time, shone dully against the dust-splattered crust of earth. The tireless sun cast its parching rays of incandescence, misspelled, from overhead, halfway through its daily revolution. I love this next sentence. Small rodents scampered about, occupying themselves in the daily accomplishments of their dismal lives. Thus sprayed over 3 heaving mounts in blinding clouds, while they bore the burdensome cargoes of their struggling overseers. Do you not love the flowery prose, or what?
It's brilliant.
Okay.
I'm not sure what just happened here, but I like it.
Prepare to embrace your creators in the Stygian haunts of hell, barbarian, gasped the first soldier. Only after you have kissed the fleeting stead of death, wretch. Igner. Sorry?
Wait, who's supposed to laugh? You or us?
Okay, so that was you just laughing, I guess.
You're laughing because Grigner is the main name we will hear throughout this entire thing.
I read it as ginger. That's badly misspelled.
Ginger.
Greg Ginger.
Greg Ginger.
A sweeping blade of flashing steel, riveted from the massive barbarian's hide enameled shield, as his rippling right arm thrust forth, sending a steel-shod blade to the hilt into the soldier's vital organs. The disemboweled mercenary crumpled from his saddle and sank to the clouded sward, sprinkling the parched dust with crimson droplets of escaping life fluid. The enthused barbarian swiveled around, Swilveled.
No, sorry. What is that word?
Swilveled about. Swilveled about, his shock of fiery red hair tossing robustly in the humid air currents as he faced the attack of the defeated soldier's fellow in arms. "Damn you, barbarian!" shrieked the soldier as he observed his comrade in death. A gleaming scimitar smote a heavy blow against the renegade's spiked helmet, bringing a heavy cloud over the accordion's misting brain. Shaking off the effects of the pounding blow to his head, Grigner brought down his scarlet-streaked edge against the soldier's crudely forged hauberk, clanging harmlessly to the left side of his opponent. The soldier's steed whinnied as he directed the horse back from the driving blade of the barbarian. Grigner leashed his mount forward as the hoarsely piercing battle cry of his wilderness-bred race resounded from his grinding lungs. What a grinding lungs! A twirling blade bounced harmlessly.
Tipping over it, Emma. I, for one, would like to know how red hair can toss robustly.
I think this game is unfair. It seems to me like Emma is never going to laugh.
Oh,
no,
we have
to.
I think it's good.
I was going to toss it when I got to the end of the paragraph, because I'm not going to laugh, pretty much. Unless one of you says something truly epic.
Okay, hopefully.
So it's just like you're not really meant to. So it's just like you're not really meant to try not to laugh. You're meant to actually laugh when something's retarded.
It was supposed to be like scientifically guaranteed that you'd laugh. So we've been
no, but just let me know at the tone of this. Like if something is like stupid, are you supposed to like give in to your laugh, or are you meant to?
Well, you're playing to win, which is not the idea. The idea isn't to play to win, but it is to sort of try.
I get you. I was once do you guys know the game Cards Against Humanity?
Yeah.
I was once in a stream, because you can play it online, right? So I was once in a stream with a bunch of people, and there was this, and we were playing it, and after a while we noticed that this one guy was, whenever he was the person that got to choose which combination of cards was the funniest, he always chose ones that like everyone else, never really thought were that funny. And so after a while we were like, it kind of seems like you're doing that purposely to kind of cheat. And at the end of the game, he admitted it. He was like, yeah. And every time people were like, how do you fucking cheat at Cards Against Humanity? Well, he always just picked whoever had the least points as the winner.
Oh.
So over time, it was easy for him to win. And all of us were like, you fucking loser. Like, this isn't a competitive game. It's meant to be, like, genuinely trying to make funny shit and just laugh at it, right?
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck gets that competitive about Cards Against fucking Humanity? So, okay. I totally get it, and I will totally laugh in our real stream at, at all the dumb stuff.
On cue, you'll have to laugh. You'll have, like, we'll just tell you to. All right, laugh now. That sentence was funny.
No, I just mean when there's something that's obviously dumb, like grinding lungs. What the fuck?
Yeah, they do that.
I didn't know that lungs could grind.
Well, you just haven't been around the right lungs then. So if you
Clearly
knew the lungs I knew.
All right. I think get to the end of this paragraph and pass it on to Tim, and let's see if
Okay.
I don't think I'll do very well, to be honest.
A twirling blade bounced harmlessly from the mighty thief's buckler. What's a buckler?
It's like a shield.
Kind of shield.
Okay. As his rolling right arm cleft upward.
There we go.
Now you're just crying.
No.
See? We made you self-conscious to it.
No. That was genuine. Because, okay, that's just... so
how does the thing cleft? Doesn't make sense.
I think, is it a reference to a certain part? Is that what you thought?
No, because that would be like, as his, arm cleft did blah, 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 blah. But as his rolling right arm cleft makes it seem like cleft is a verb about something the arm did rather than a part of the arm. But
it's like his cleft the direction upward. Which
sorry,
is
I
weird.
really love like grammar and English boring as shit.
Well, you know what? You're in for a very fun time.
It looks like it. I guess it's your turn now, Timmy.
I don't think I'll even get through one sentence, to be honest. Okay.
Read it with gusto, it helps.
Sending a foot of blinding steel, ripping through the Samarian's exposed gullet. A gasping gurgle from the soldier's writhing mouth as he stumbled to the golden sand at his feet. And wormed... What? Did I read that wrong? No,
yeah, tumbled.
Oh, he wormed agonizingly in his deathbed. Grigner's emerald green orbs glared lustily at the wallowing soldier struggling before his chestnut-swirled mount. His scowling voice reverberated over the dying form in a tone of mocking.
How does a voice scowl? I'm sorry.
That one didn't get me. Okay.
With the eyes.
I can be in the zone. It's okay. You city-bred dogs should learn not to antagonize your better. Reining his wary mount ahead, Grigner resumed his journey to the Norgolian. Damn it!
What's wrong with Norgolian?
What is that? What is that word? That's not a word.
He spells it in 2 different ways as well. It's
Norgolian. Is that a thing?
It's a made-up land.
It's a thing in this land, obviously.
Oh god, I should have tried harder. That was the best I could do.
Norgolian.
The Norgolian city of Gorzam.
Yeah, I would go Norgolian. I don't know.
I've completely lost track of what is even happening in the story. If you read the whole thing, does it make sense?
It sort of makes sense, but this whole opening bit is not very important. It's just he just wanted to open with a fight, I think.
I'm not sure I actually know what's happening.
Yeah, neither. Just the Norgolian.
Like if you're asking me to do, like a cliff notes of the story, I wouldn't have a fucking clue.
Well, the barbarian killed Norgolian.
It was fighting in some.
His driving blade made his arm cleft, to be honest. Less than ideal.
Okay. Continuing on. It's my turn, isn't it?
How far are we reading?
I think we were going to do the first 2 chapters, right?
But I think we at least need to do at least a good part of the second chapter. The second chapter gets really good.
Getting some echo from you.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Let's just start. Is it Emma's or yours?
It's the
It could be mine. I'm sorry if it is.
All right.
Mute me for a second.
All right. Has that helped?
Okay.
No.
Where did you get up to, May?
I can still hear an echo.
I can't. So I guess that means it's me.
Okay, so can you do something?
Not really. I don't know. These headphones don't normally create an echo. I've never had that before.
That's weird. Can you like move the mic around or just fiddle and see if that does anything? I don't know.
No.
Okay. All right. Sorry. We'll just live with it, I guess.
Can people in the chat hear it? I'm really confused because normally I can hear it when it's me.
It's only with Josh, so it's his fault. No, wait, it's with me too. Fuck!
Emma, it's all your fault.
Like, I'm not saying it's not me. I've just never had that with these before, and I can normally hear it when it has been like with older headphones that I've had. So I'm just really confused.
Have you tried muting yourself?
Oh damn! Save me rational thoughts as you can. No, hang on. Let me go try that.
Hello. Are we getting the echo? No.
I think that's better.
Yeah, now there's no echo. It's fucking Emma's fault. I knew it.
Fuck, it is me. How? I can try change my headphones if I can find any other ones.
I blame our country and everyone who lives.
I've got it here. Let me try it.
how does the chat like the little game? Because don't forget, if you really enjoy it, you get to see the whole thing on the charity stream.
I think it's gonna be like really good with like all the different people that we'll have doing it. I'm
pretty sure
we
just lost about 90% of our viewers, to be honest. So I mean,
seriously,
8 viewers that we lost.
Oh wow,
that was a joke. I actually have no fucking clue. That echo is just satanic.
Hang on. I'm just trying to extricate these other headphones. Fuck, they're just like real tied up. I'm sorry.
Life. So enjoying the echo.
Hey Tim, don't name names right now, but like I bet you know who the weirdly way over competitive person was.
Do I?
Yeah, you will. It'll come to you.
Hey, are you?
No, but someone who also thinks they're really alpha and takes a lot of shit way too seriously.
Okay, fuck.
Okay, now wait.
Hey, wait, has it gone now? It's
I don't know. You
better,
tell me.
I think it's a lot better. Maybe I can hear the faintest thing, but otherwise it's gone.
Okay.
If we don't get this resolved, this is a fucking Bane length stream. I think it basically already is.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. All right, let's get back to it.
Go.
Okay. Grigner resumed his journey to the Norgolian city of Gorzam, hoping to discover wine, women, and adventure to boil the wild blood coursing through his savage veins. The trek to Gorzam was forced upon Grigner when the soldiers of Kryn were leashed upon him by a faithless concubine he had wooed. His scandalous activities throughout the Cimmerian city had unleashed throngs of havoc and uproar among its refined patricians, leading them to tack a heavy reward over his head. He had barely managed to escape through the back entrance of the inn he had been guzzling in, as a squad of soldiers
guzzling it. Sorry, we're not helping.
This guy just has a thesaurus and like picks a random, unnecessarily like fucked word for everything he wants to say, and then like puts it in the wrong tense or adds the wrong like ending to it or some stupid shit.
Oh, the thesaurus is wrong with this one, believe me.
I've been guzzling in my house tonight. It's true.
Let me tell you guys, it only gets better. You see why I thought this would be a good idea, right?
It's just the start is a bit slow, but then it picks up a little bit.
It picks up a little.
Like all the best stories, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right, Emma, you're up.
Okay.
He had been guzzling in.
After spilling a spout of blood from the leader of the mercenaries as he dismembered one of the officer's arms, he retreated to his mount to make his way towards Gorzom, rumoured to contain hoards of plunder and many young wenches for any man who has the backbone to wrest them away.
Cool.
Was that a laugh?
Yeah.
Be honest.
I think it was.
Tim, there you go.
I like how he just quickly spills their blood and then moves on. He's like, yeah, no big fucking deal. I'm heading to Gorzom. After killing a fucking load of people, he just keeps walking. Yes, you do. All right, I actually have to try to do this because I don't think I'll get very far.
All right.
All right. Poker face. Arriving after dusk in Gorzom, Grigner descended down a dismal alley, reining his horse before a beaten tavern. That's not love. The red-haired giant strode into the Gimli. Gimli? That's just fucking up. That doesn't count. I was just laughing at my own reading of it.
No,
too bad.
it counts.
Too bad. It's my turn now.
That was just me laughing at myself. Oh, fuck.
No laughing when you're reading. Sorry.
Ah, come on! I wasn't even laughing at the story.
I've lost my place. Oh, dimly.
I said Gimli.
Gimli.
That was just me. Ah, fuck you guys.
You bloody New Zealanders! You can't think of anything else.
No. Don't take it there. I'll turn on you in an instant if you spout that Australia shit.
All right. Do it.
All right. Where am I? The red-haired giant strode into the dimly lit hostelry, reeking of foul odors and cheap wine. The air was heavy with choking fumes, spewing from smoldering torches, encased within Thedan's earthen-packed walls. What the fuck? Okay. Tables were clustered with groups of drunken thieves and cutthroats tossing dice and making love to willing prostitutes.
Woo!
Eyeing a
I do love willing prostitutes, I can't lie.
It's the unwilling ones.
Yeah. Don't go there.
Yeah, they're not so good.
Don't do that. Go on.
Eyeing a slender female crouched alone at a nearby bench. Why? Crouched at a nearby bench? Is that like she's just like beside a bench crouching?
She's got good
He
benching
could have
technique.
put her in some kind of like alluring position, but no, crouched.
No, she's just crouched.
I've crouched at a bench many times. Come on.
Grigner advanced, wishing to wholesomely occupy his time. The flickering torches cast weird shafts of luminescence, dancing over the half-naked harlot of his choice, her stringy orchid twines of hair swaying gracefully over the lithe, opaque nose. Opaque?
I've seen many noses
Who
like that.
doesn't have an opaque nose? Like,
My nose is lithe as
that's the
fuck.
basic standard that I expect of a person, you know?
Okay.
That's not,
As
I'm
she
not like,
raised-
oh my god, they had such an amazing opaque nose. It's so hot.
Yeah.
It's good if it's lithe.
Does that count? Because that was me laughing properly that time.
No, because you were laughing to me, not the story.
Okay, I think when we're bantering, it's not so much. But if you interject while someone is reading and they laugh, that's fair. But if it's properly, we're talking apart from it. All right.
I wasn't laughing at the story. I was laughing at my own inability to read basic English.
But you were actively reading at the time.
Son of a bitch.
Okay.
Let's accept it, Tim. Accept it, Tim.
Who's
Never.
Yeah, go on.
As
You
she
didn't laugh yet,
raised
did you?
a half-drained mug to her pale red lips. Glancing upward, the alluring complexion noted the stalwart giant. Sorry.
Grigner is the giant. He's a stalwart giant.
I don't even know what. Yeah, laugh.
And he actually is a ginger.
But
from that
listen-
scene. He's a Grigner.
I'm sorry. I would normally.
And he's big.
man.
Okay. As he rapidly approached, a faint glimmer sparked from the pair of deep blue ovals of the amorous female as she motioned towards Grigner, enticing him to join her. The barbarian seated himself upon a stool at the wench's side, exposing his body.
Woohoo.
Naked,
And
save
then-
for a loincloth, brandishing I can't do it. I can't fucking do this. That's why I paused, because I was just gonna laugh. Damn it.
I just
This-
read the rest of the sentence and I died. I like,
This
oh my
fucking game was designed to
god.
be
I
impossible.
would, the rest of the sentence would do me in if it were my turn.
God, I tried.
Wait, sorry, where were you up to?
Save for the loincloth.
Save
How
for
can
the
you forget the loincloth?
Save the loincloth, brandishing a long steel broadsword, an iron spiraled battle helmet, and a thick leather sandals. Nice use of
A
the
thick
singular
leather
there.
sandals, guys.
To her unobstructed view. Oh, he's really going to show off that sandal, right?
I do love
Chick
having an
stick sandals.
unobstructed view.
Like, damn, that's one hell of a sandal there.
Thou hast need to occupy your time, barbarian. Questioned the female. Do you like how there's a question mark after the sentence?
She probably did question him. You know, we're not too sure, but she probably did.
Only if something worth offering is within my reach, stated Grigner, as his hands crept to embrace the tempting female. Sorry, there we go. Your turn, Emma.
Who welcomed them with open willingness. That's redundancy. Fool. From where do you come, barbarian? And by what are you called? Gasped the complying wench, as Grigner smothered her lips. Stop! It was your laughter.
That doesn't count. You get to go on.
Yeah, Jim, come on. You got to read it. As Grigner smothered.
I can't even go on anymore. This is impossible.
Come on, Jim.
Torture. As Grigner smothered her lips with a blazing touch of his flaming mouth, the engrossed Titan ignored the... See, I can't even, I can barely get to the...
It's not just this story that does it, but, why do people even say the whole, flaming mouth thing ever? Because it's just not...
All right, Joshua, can I just, at least just try from the engrossed...
Try a bit more.
Titan? Okay.
Sure.
The engrossed Titan ignored the queries of the inquisitive female, pulling her towards him and crushing her... Why would he crush his
Can I just say, as the person that's been the token female in this hangout, please, nobody take this as some kind of sexual tip. That's some stupid shit.
I think this game is too hard. There's no how could you possibly get through this whole story?
I'm definitely gonna get some alcohol.
The idea is that you fail constantly, and that's
to
what
make
makes
this
it fun too.
even more. You know?
I mean, because it's quite long. Because I browsed through it, and there's a lot of content there. I don't know how. Even with two, there'll be so much laughing with two hangouts.
That's a good thing.
Oh my god! I just read the actual.
Sorry.
What?
Oh, no, don't worry. We'll get there.
Right, it's my turn now, right?
We're gonna be here all fucking night, to be honest. Okay.
No, we're not. We're gonna stop.
Crushing her sagging nipples to his yearning chest. Without struggle, she gave in. Winding her soft arms around the harshly bronzed hide
Sad
of
that they're sagging.
corded shoulder braids. What?
Sad that they're sagging.
What's sagging?
The nipples.
Yeah, if she's like this young, wench, she should have nice perky nipples, right?
Shut up about continuity. Fuck you.
Without struggle, she gave in. Blah blah blah. As his calloused hands caressed her firm, protruding busts. You make love well, wench.
They're firm, but the nipples are sagging.
Yeah, they're firm.
And they're protruding, so that would imply perkiness.
Well, this is a world in which that kind of thing's possible.
Yeah, this is an amazing world of contradiction.
True.
It is a fantasy. So
it is a true fantasy. You're right.
And be sagging but firm in this world. Said Grigner.
Yeah, they're like they're like that sort of substance that becomes a solid when you exert pressure on it. You know what I mean?
Wait, he didn't answer her question about where he was from and what he was called.
No, he's just ignoring that.
Just wait for
He's
it.
like, whatever. You're a woman. I don't care.
Where's this game? All right.
You make love well, wench, admitted Grigner, as he reached for the vessel of potent wine his charge had been quaffing.
He was hoping she was gonna be shit at it.
Gender roles.
A flying foot caught the mug Grigner had taken hold of, sending its blood-red contents sloshing over a flickering crescent. What? Where did the crescent come from, I wonder? Anyway,
No.
leashing tongues of bright orange flame to the foot-trodden floor. What else treads on a floor, please?
Horses.
It could just be
Hooves?
the trodden floor. Yeah, it should be trodden floor.
Trodden by hooves?
Well, actually,
and
no.
by
It should be just
paws?
It should be well trod floor. Sorry.
Trodden
Okay.
by trotters.
Remove yourself, sirrah. The wench belongs to me, blabbered a drunken soldier, too far consumed by the influences of his virile brew to take notice of the superior size of his adversary. Grigner literally bounded
I'm
from
going
the
to start calling Seaman that now.
Sorry?
Stop interrupting, wench,
My bad.
said Gregner. No, that was Gregner.
Too many characters.
Grigner liftly bounded from the startled female, his face lit up to an ashen red ferocity. Isn't ashen like grey? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Hmm.
And eyes locked in a searing feral blaze toward the
Oh
swaying.
yeah, ashen red. That is kind of weird.
To hell with you, braggart! Bellowed the angered accordion. I always think of the musical instrument. It's ridiculous. You know, there's this angry barbarian accordion.
Yeah, but accordion.
Ah, whatever. It sounds like accordion.
Unless it's editorializing, you've got to try to attempt the text,
Yeah.
wench.
It's probably a traditional name where he comes from. Stop being so racist.
Okay. As he hefted his finely honed broadsword, the staggering soldier clumsily reached towards the pommel of his dangling sword. Whoa, innuendo. But before his hands ever touched the oaken hilt, a silvered flash was slicing the heavy air. The thews of the savage's lashing right arm bulged from the glistening bronze hide as his blade bit deeply into the soldier's neck, loping off the confused head of his senseless tormentor. With a nauseating thud, the severed oval toppled to the floor as the segregated torso of Grigner's bovine antagonist
Wait, I thought this was a human.
Bovine. Alright, I'm giving it up. Next.
Oh, that's too much. That's impossible. I'm never.
Next, come on.
Okay, I gotta find my fucking place. Okay, then collapsed in a pearl of swirled crimson. In the confusion, the soldiers' fellows confronted Grigner with unsheathed cutlasses, directed toward the latter's scowling makeup. He's wearing makeup? Yeah. The slut should have picked his quarry more carefully, roared the victor in a mocking baritone growl, as he wiped his dripping blade on the prostrate form and returned it to its scabbard.
Oh god, all the innuendo and stuff is just, ugh. Blood-shamed the soldier he just killed. Am I right?
Does that count as a laugh? Sorry. What
No,
do we
I think-
decide about?
because he was talking,
Okay.
so it's fine.
Okay, so if you're like laughing at something someone says, it's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
The fool should have shown more prudence. However, you shall rue your actions while rotting in the pits, stated one of the sprawled soldier's comrades. Grigner's hand began to remove his blade from its leather housing, but
Oh,
That's a hard one to get through.
retarded emotion. What? Okay. So, no,
That's the
that's
technical.
too retarded of a sentence. to
That's the
pass.
technically accurate use of the word retarded there. That's what got to throw you
yeah,
off.
it actually is.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But
retarded the motion
You
and
just
face
don't see it being retarded the
used
motion.
in
It
terms
sounds
of like what it actually means. Yeah.
Would you have preferred it made special the motion, you know?
Well, he was too retarded to get his sword out. Like that would be like, that's a no. Okay, retarded the motion and face of the blades waving before his face. Dismiss your hand from the hilt, barbarian.
Someone
you
in the
shall
chat is like,
find
so
a
he
foot-
just decapitated someone with his penis.
Or you shall find a foot of steel sheathed in your gizzard. Grigner weighed his position, observing his plight, whereupon he took the soldier's advice as the only logical choice. To attempt to hack his way from his present predicament can only warrant certain death. He was of no mind to bring upon his own demise, as if an alternative path presented itself. The will to necessitate his life forced him to yield to the superior force in hopes of a moment of carelessness. Carelessness upon the part of his captors, in which he could effect a more plausible means of escape. You may steady your arms.
I think he said the same thing with 4 different sentences.
Yeah, that was just a lot of words right then.
I think this barbarian has suddenly become way too logical.
He is very thoughtful here.
Yeah.
You may steady your arms. I will go without a struggle. Your decision is a wise one, yet perhaps you would have been better off had you forced death. The soldier's mouth wrinkled to a sadistic grin of knowing mirth as he prodded his prisoner on with his sword point.
Remember, penis is sword.
Oh.
Is that true?
No, it's
well,
okay.
might as well
Or is
be.
it just
coming up in the chat.
After an
Yeah.
indiscriminate period of marching through slinking alleyways and dim moonlighted streets, the procession confronted
moonlight?
dim moonlight.
Moonlighted, yeah.
It's quite a good description.
No,
like that.
moonlit, I
I think it's
believe is
moonlit.
the word
It was lighted
That
by the moon.
he's going for there.
That's not too bad. Oh wait, where am I
See,
at?
Jim himself is a thesaurus that knows no
I
bounds.
should stop being such an elitist.
Hold up. Let's scroll down a bit. Moonlighted street. The procession confronted a massive seraglio. That doesn't count. Come on.
No, it totally does.
Does it?
Why not?
Yeah, you were reading, man.
You went Seraglio, and then
I
laughed.
said seraglio. Okay.
All right, come on. All right, my turn. The palace. Oh shit, my thing scrolled. Sorry. My mouse is freaking out. Just give me one quick sec. Seraglio. The palace area was surrounded by an iron grating with a lush garden upon all sides. The group was admitted through the gilded gateway, and Grigno was led along a stone pathway bordered by plush vegetation, misspelled, lustfully enhanced by the moon's shimmering rays. Yes, one really lustfully enhances that vegetation, don't they? Upon reaching the palace, the group was granted entrance, and after several minutes of explanation, led through several winding corridors to a richly draped chamber. Confronting the group was a short, stocky man, seated upon a golden throne. Tapestries of rich draped regal blue silk covered all walls of the chamber, while the steps leading to the throne were plated with sparkling white ivory. The man upon the throne had a naked wench seated at each of his arms, and a trusted advisor seated in back of him. What?
Sorry, I lost track of
I like to think that we've got
in back of him.
I like to think that like it's a what's the word? You know that guy from Beyond Thunderdome? You know how he's got like a little midget on the back?
No.
Lord Humongous or something. No, the other one. The one with, you know, how it's got like I like to think that he's got this big throne and then this little throne tacked on the back with the advisor in it. Like just on the top. Anyway.
Yeah.
At each corner of the chamber, a guard stood at attention with upraised pikes supported in their hands, golden chainmail adorning their torsos, and barred helmets emitting scarlet plumes enshrouding their heads. That must make it hard to see. The man throne, thrown to the dais surrounding it. His plush turquoise robe dangled loosely from his chunky
robe, it looks like.
Turquoise. The soldiers surrounding Grigner fell to their knees and with heads bowed to the stone masonry of the floor in fearful dignity to their sovereign liege. I thought it was the same thing. Jesus Christ. Explain the purpose of this intrusion upon my chateau. Your serenity. Your serenity? What?
Your serenity.
Your serenity Resplendent in noble grandeur, we have brought this yokel before you. The soldier gestured toward Grigner. For the redress of your all-knowing wisdom in judgment regarding his fate. Down on your knees, lout, and pay proper homage to your sovereign, commanded the pudgy noble of Grigner. By the surly beard of Mrith, Grigner kneels to no man.
What the fuck's Murph?
Scowled the massive barbarian. You dare to deal this blasphemous act to me? You are indeed brave, stranger, yet your valor smacks of foolishness. I find you to be the only fool sitting upon your pompous throne, enhancing the rolling flabs of your belly in the midst of your elaborate luxury, and... The soldier standing at Grigner's side smote him heavily in the face with the flat of his sword, cutting short the harsh words and knocking...
How did you lose it?
Right.
I don't know. I think I was thinking about other shit that had
Because you were
gone
holding on at that point.
Yeah.
You thought you would be so good at this, Emma. You
Once
thought you
I
had this
put
down.
myself out of the competitive zone.
Oh, we gotta get back there then.
I need to put myself if I put myself in that I'm stealing myself, then I'd be good at it. But it's more fun, I think, if I'm not.
All right. And knocking his battered helmet to the masonry with an echoing clang. The paunchy noble's sagging round face flushed suddenly pale, then pastily lit up to a lustrous cherry red radiance. His lips trembled with malicious rage while emitting a gasp. I can't play this game.
Oh my god. His lips trembled with malicious rage while emitting a muffled sibilant gibberish. His sagging flabs rolled like a tub of upset jelly, then compressed as he sucked in his gut in an attempt to conceal his softness. There's a lot going on with this character.
I'm just confused because at one point he was pudgy, and now it sounds like he's like really obese.
Yeah. He's changed.
Continuity is not this guy's strong point.
No, no. The prince regained his statue, then spoke.
Statue? Is that what it seriously
His
says?
statue. Look, the prince regained his statue.
No way. That's ridiculous. Someone didn't spell check this shit?
No, he just didn't mention that there was a stolen statue that he was looking for.
Well,
Then
I'm
spoke
pretty glad
to the
of
soldiers surrounding Grigner, his face conforming to an ugly expression of sadistic humour. Take this uncouth heathen to the vault of misery.
Well, that's not the greatest fault. And be sure that his agonies are long and drawn out before death can release him. As you wish, sire, your command shall be heeded immediately, answered the soldier on the right of Grigner as he stared into the barbarian's seemingly unaffected face. The advisor seated in the back of the noble... Why is he seated? That guy has a seat in him. Like, that doesn't make sense. Why is he seated there? God, the pain. The advisor was seated in the back of the noble.
Slowly rose and advanced.
Bear that in
to the
mind
side.
as we continue.
I cannot read that.
Motioning the wenches seated at his sides to remove themselves.
So
He
they were,
lowered
wait,
and with
so they were in the back of the noble too.
The whole time. No one knew it. It's like, what are you doing in there? Get out of the fucking noble. Oh, the pain.
Eminence, the punishment you have decreed.
Will cause much misery to the scum, yet it will last only a short time. Then release him to a land beyond the sufferings of the human body, Why not mellow him in one of the subterranean vaults for a few days? Sorry, was that a laugh?
No, that was just
Not
jovial.
Then send him... No, I kind of did one and then I swallowed it back. Then send him to life labor in one of your buried mines. To one such as
to all
he,
those sky mines.
a life spent in the... I was laughing at you. Can I get away with it?
Yeah, that's allowed.
All right,
In the
one more
confinement
go.
of the Stygian?
Stygian.
Stygian will be an infinitely more appropriate and lasting torture. The noble cupped his drooping double chin in the folds of his briming palm.
His brimming
There we go.
briming.
Briming palm. What's a
Oh,
brime?
where are we at?
I was
'Cause
laughing
scrolled
at my
down.
own failure to
Meditating.
read the spelling
Oh.
mistake.
Meditating for a moment upon the rationality of the councillor's words, then raised his shaggy brown eyebrows and turned towards the advisor, eyes aglow. As I'm sorry, I just saw his name. Egafnid. As always, Egafnid. I can't even say. Why do I always start at the hardest part? I get given the most difficult bit every single time. As always, Egafnid.
All right, my turn. My turn.
Can't even say his name.
As always, Agathon, you speak with great wisdom. Your words ring of great knowledge concerning the nature of one such as he. Saith, the king. The noble turned toward the prisoner with a noticeable shimmer reflecting in his frog-like eyes, and his lip contorting into a greasy grin. Interesting. I have decided to void my previous decree. The prisoner shall be removed to one of the palace's underground vaults. There he shall stay until I have decided that he has sufficiently simmered. Whereupon he is to be allowed to spend the remainder of his days at labor in one of my mines. Upon hearing this, Grigner realized that his fate would be far less merciful than death to one such as he, who is used to roaming the countryside at will. A life of confinement would be more than his body and mind could stand up to. This type of life would be immeasurably worse than death. Yet again, many sentences to say the same thing. I shall never understand the ways if your twisted civilization.
That was a lot.
All right, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
No one's yet removed themselves. No, only the women have removed themselves from the noble.
They're useful ornaments.
Woman as background decoration.
So where are we at? I simply defend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I shall never I simply defend. Yeah.
Oh, is it my turn? Whoops.
Yeah.
I simply defend.
No, it's Emma's. Isn't it Emma's?
I thought it was Emma's. Yeah.
It is. My bad.
Yeah.
I simply defend my honor. I am condemned to life confinement by a pig who sits on his royal ass wooing whores and knows nothing of the affairs of the land he imagines to rule, lectures Grigner. Enough of this. Away with the slut before I loose my control. Seeing the peril of his position, Grigner searched for an opening. Oh, really? Crushing prudence to the sward, he ploughed into the soldier at his left arm, taking hold of his sword, and bounding to the dais supporting the prince before the startled guards could regain their composure.
Yeah. Goddamn.
All right, come on, Tim, you can do it. Agathon.
Take us on.
Leaped Gringer and his sire, but found a sword blade permeating the length of his ribs before he could loose his weapon. The councillor slumped to his knees as Grigner slid his crimson blade from... That's not even the same word. Egfin's ribcage. The fat prince stood... undulating an insurmountable fear before the edge of the fiery main
Introducing so many new characters without any intro.
His flabs of jellied blubber pulsating to and fro in ripples of flowing terror. Where is your wisdom and power now, your majesty? Growled Grigner. The prince went rigid as Grugner discerned him glazing over his shoulder.
I like how he went.
He
I
swallowed.
love how he went from rippling and flowing and undulating to standing rigid.
Yeah. He swallowed to note the cause of the noble's attention, raised his sword over his head, and prepared to leash a vicious downward cleft. But fell short as the haft of a steel-rimed pike clashed against his unguarded skull. Aye, that's a laugh. So, take us home. Go.
Then blackness and solitude, silence enshrouding and ever peaceful, reigned supreme. Before me, Sirrah, before me as always. Ha, 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 ha! Nobly castles.
Is that nobly or nobly?
Nobly.
Okay, thank God. That one's spelled right.
I guess
Okay. I think we made it. I don't think we can get through part 3.
No. We were only going to do the first 2. We've got to leave something to mainstream, and we got to.
Could this work with a whole bunch more of people? Or...
I think it will work way too well / badly in a good way.
I know it'll take like centuries to get through the story. To be honest,
I think even if we don't get through all of it, it would be just such a good time, and I think people would enjoy it, and I think it would be a good charity stream.
Yeah, because I read it.
If nothing else, we're all going to have a laugh with each other. Like,
yeah.
I
was trying to.
If nothing else, it'll be bonding
personally, but I don't know if it's possible. Because it's just it's unreadable. That's probably not a word.
It has some truly epic moments. I have to say, chapter 2 is one of the highlights, but there's some other really good moments too.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be fun,
and it doesn't get any better. Let me tell you.
And why does everyone keeps falling to the sword all the time? Like, what's the sword?
We have quite a lot of people that are joining in, and I'm pretty sure like nearly all of them will be. I'm
looking up sword.
Donating.
An upper layer of soil covered with grass. Oh, okay. Everyone keeps falling onto the upper layer of soil every time. Anytime someone gets stabbed, they fall on an upper layer of soil for some reason.
Yep.
I'm on the sword again. Oh, I'm dying.
We know this kid just used his thesaurus to death. It was like falling apart.
Is this a young guy?
Yeah, it was a 16-year-old. I mentioned that.
Oh God, I feel bad now because it's just like we're mocking his life ambition.
No, it's okay. It's okay. This is a very interesting form of fame. It's like Ed Wood.
Bullying right now. What are you doing? Poor guy. He's 16. He thought he was achieving something.
He thought he was achieving something.
Sad.
Oh,
I mean, in a good way, not in a mean way. He died in 2002? Oh, really?
So now you're making fun of the dead, Tim. How does it feel?
Better because they can't come back and get revenge.
I think by that time it had been firmly established as a joke, and I think he wasn't like totally torn up about it. I think he was just like, I was a kid. It was stupid. Whatever.
I think that was sad. How did he die? I bet he was a great man.
He had an aneurysm by trying too hard to come up with a synonym.
It's probably not true, but I'm sorry, Jim Theis.
With Theis.
Theis. I'm sorry to hear that didn't work out, but God damn it, what a legend.
Yeah, it's an amazing, you hear about so bad it's good, and sometimes you're like, oh yeah, it might be fun, but often isn't it like just not very good or not very fun or just boring? I
fucking adore Ed Wood Jr. He's just a god.
This is something else because you're gonna actually take part. It's actually really fun.
Yep. God, I need to try to write something this bad, but I don't have the talent. I could never do it.
Yeah, it's like you can't create this without it being genuine, you know?
Right. It has to be like really like, this is my masterpiece. This is going to show everyone, and then they read it and they just lose it, and you're like, what's happening? my genius.
Oh god, I'm looking at the about section now.
Hmm.
That's from 1970, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when is this stream?
It's Emma suggested maybe Sunday weekend after this one.
Yeah, because you're busy this coming weekend, right?
I'm busy this weekend, and I'd really like to take part. It was sort of my idea, you know. So.
Yeah.
And tomorrow I have a hangout with Steve Shives and some other people.
Oh my
gosh.
And everyone's going to kill themselves over Trump.
Not all.
Some.
I don't actually think that's funny. That was an awkward laugh moment. Yeah, I think Sunday, the next weekend after this one, will be good because, yeah, if we do it at around like midday-ish our time, then that's like, you know, afternoon, evening for the Americans, and yeah, that should be okay for a good chunk of people, if not all. It's hard to get all, but yeah.
Yeah,
I think that would be pretty good.
This has been a very long hangout.
Yeah.
Apologizing to the chat
Epic.
for the length. But
yeah, it's been good though, I think.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Through, like, at a certain period, Garrett was here, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm not really. That's like another age when that guy was here. But okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was a good run through for that charity event on Sunday.
Yeah,
and we are going to keep working on videos for Against the Odds.
Yeah. And anyone who's interested,
start working on them.
Just stay on. Oh, when you put this up, put a link to the main Against the Odds channel. That might be a good idea.
Yeah, I need to. I'll just add that into the description.
Sure.
And I hope people just feel good about Gringer's place in life and how he's doing. And I think Gringer will get there. He's just going to work against the odds.
Someone should, HBO should adapt this as a series.
Oh, yeah. This would be better than Drunk History. This would be so much better than Drunk History.
Oh, because there's a lot of SWAT in it. Yep. Just for the SWAT.
Well, what are they? A pile of dirt?
It's the upper layer of soil often with grass. So you learn something every fucking day.
I like Devin's comment. Then Garrett left and you proceeded to read smut.
Yeah. Oh, it was a bit adult rated for him, so he had to go to bed.
Glad you had a good time. Save me rational thought.
Right.
Anyway, so
all right, cool.
We'll
I'm gonna stop the stream.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, guys.
I'm gonna go to sleep. Bye.
You all in hell.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, no, I need to upload my fucking video. Fuck.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.